Definitely. I think it's going to be a very tight season this year, and I think our admins have quite the slam dunk of a second race for this very short season. Uh, Code is a track that very much demands you to drive on the limit in order to ace this track, and combining that with a full qualifying is going to make these guys try to push a little bit harder than they may even want to try and get that early start to the season.
I agree. I agree.
People like Red Bull having two people up there at the top, AlphaTauri two people at the top, even Alfa Romeo's within striking distance, two drivers 8 and 9. It's going to be important to get another strong performance this week, and yeah, this track's going to demand a lot out of our D1 drivers.
Yeah. Now I want to switch it up a little bit. Like you talk about the track, so we know it's a combination. Pretty the third sector requiring lots of mechanical grip. Low speed corners, but then again we have sector one, which is the high speed S's. So what are your thoughts about the track distribution? You think it's it's gonna be a high tire wear? You think lots of drivers are gonna get caught up in between the barriers, or
I think this is a very technical track. Like I was saying, it very much demands you to drive on the limit, and with that comes a lot of natural tire wear, plus the material they use to make Coda. I think it's more of like a concrete than an asphalt, so it does turn out to be a lot more abrasive on the tires.
mm,
But yeah, I think tire management's going to be very important this weekend. One slight spill is enough to ruin a tire set here.
I agree. I completely agree. It just takes like you say one little spin to just overheat the
Hmm.
rears or and just
It takes a lot out of the tires going sideways on this track.
yeah. I agree. But it's funny to see that because we're gonna see D1 drivers try to find like the perfect pace between tire management and the DRS management, because usually when you see that tires are dropping off, you instantly punch on the DRS button, right, to compensate for tire wear. But then again, on race starts, you also do want to use your battery to try to hold position. So I think it's gonna be tricky to see the drivers find that fine line between ERS management and tire, because I believe ERS it's not like an ERS hungry track, but it's like it does take a couple laps to recover back some lost ERS. So it's like a driver's beware that once you start dumping, it's a bit hard to get back up to like for 30, 40, 50% ERS.
Definitely. It's like you were saying, it's not that hungry of a track. Personally, I'm only really using it on the straightaway portions of the track, but they're pretty long, especially the main straightaway between 11 and 12. And
I agree.
excuse me, randomly looking to the right, I do have an extra monitor over here.
Me
I'm
too.
not just getting extra help from some random person here.
That's
But
true.
yeah, between 11 and 12, and if you get yourself really trying to catch up to somebody and blindly using your ERS over and over again, you can run yourself dry pretty quick.
I agree. I completely agree. And well, speaking of DRS and tire management and this, it brings me to my next point, which is how wise do you think it is to go for an undercut or overcut around Coda?
I think it purely depends on the tires.
All right.
There's it seems to favor the alternate strategy. The medium soft this weekend seems to be working a little bit more successfully. But for those that can make it work, yeah, it's gonna be all about the tires.
I agree. Okay,
Well, we
so
got we got some good drivers here, so I could even see somebody getting creative and maybe going for a two stop,
I agree. I mean, they
medium soft soft
yeah,
kind of deal.
yeah. The pace is there. I agree. Like lots like a lot of these drivers
Definitely.
have the pace for a two stop. But then again, I'll raise a situation. You're on a DRS train. You're the first medium runner behind the softs, and safety car lap what lap 13, lap 12, 13. So not the start of the race, but not the end, like kind of in the middle. Would you go into the softs and like try to go those 10, 11 laps, 12, even 12 laps on softs, considering that you would drop off at the end, or
I
would you stay out?
I think personally, for me, that's the optimum point to give me that safety car.
Really?
That's
Okay.
just just a few laps shy of the end of the mediums. We can see him get up towards 18 laps,
Mm-hmm.
18, 20 laps worth of life. So bringing him back about five, I would jump in on the softs, try and
Okay.
go for a little bit of a longer middle stint, and then have lots of life at the end with low fuel and just
Hmm.
push.
All right. It's a good, yeah.
But
It's a good idea.
if
So,
if not,
mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. If I was a soft tire runner at that point though, I'd
You're,
I
you,
don't know what I'd be doing. If
I mean,
I had already come in for the softs,
yeah.
I'd be a little perplexed.
Uh, True. It's all. It's funny how
Yeah,
there's
kind of
two
caught out.
two sides of the.
You
Go ahead.
you're always either on the right side of it or you're completely caught out.
Yeah, exactly. That's the word
Yeah,
I was
no
gonna
in
say.
between.
There's no in between. Either really good or it's just disastrous for your
Yeah.
race, which is interesting. That's what I love about Circle of the Americas. So
Hmm.
yeah, like to round it up, I do believe DRS trains are important here around Coda because you do once you realize that you break DRS from someone behind and you have the DRS of driver in front, like after 2 3 laps, you can easily build a gap of 1.52 seconds, easily just for the main DRS straight. So
Definitely.
I think it's gonna be a banger. So um, what do you think of your D1 drivers? What's your prediction for both the Gator and Damien? Where do you think they'll end up with?
I believe with our push towards consistency, I think we're going to see the same, if not better, from these guys. They've been putting in a lot of
Yeah.
practice, and I think we're going to end up with top tens, if not one of them within the top five, maybe even both if we get lucky. But I know Duncan does like to push his drivers, especially his D1 driver, so I can see Honda getting a lot of practice this
Yeah.
week.
Yeah, I can't disclose anything, but yeah, we got some things in the works.
Exactly. I know he's got so many things up his sleeve. He's got 106 cards in his deck.
But yeah, I was gonna tell you, I'm really impressed with Alfa Romeo in D1. I mean, you guys really stepped up the last race, and you're currently what, one, two, three, four. You're currently fighting for P5 in constructors championship, so it's just behind the big brother Ferrari. So I'm eager. I'm
Yep.
eager to see. Midfield's gonna be super tight. I'm guessing, and yeah, we got ourselves a treat. I'm guessing. So Trip,
Oh
anything
yeah.
else you
Should
wanna?
it should be special.
It should be special. Yeah, I agree. Engineers are gonna have to be on their toes and yeah, and drivers especially during quali. I think especially during Q3 because I think Q3 is it's where like it's no limits. Like it's already the end of quali. Like if you've been you just been it. I mean, what's
Yeah.
the worst starting place? P10. So I think yeah. I think Q3 like drivers are really gonna just throw the whole house out the window. Just like push it and yeah, I'm actually really excited to see some banker laps. So
Oh
yeah.
yeah. How low do you think we're going to get in qualifying times?
Jeez, I don't know. We might. I mean, I'm tempted to say shit. 29.9, 30, 31, something something like that. I mean, these guys can be crazy. How about you?
I think no matter what it is, the field's gonna be within a second.
Within a second. Okay.
With
All right.
less than a second splitting the whole field.
Less than a
These guys
second.
are
All right.
quick.
All right. I'm gonna
And
say
it's kind of hard, like you're pointing out there, it's kind of hard to get past that last little barrier of time, so I can see them all getting bumped up there at the top.
it's gonna be tight for sure. But yeah, 1 second. I'm saying 1.2 seconds between P1 and P20. So we'll see. Also, viewers, let us know what the field gap is gonna be here on on the comments, and yeah, and get ready because we do have a treat coming up right after this. So don't go anywhere, boys.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is time. It's 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and it is time to go racing here in Division 1 of Zoom Racing League. We are live from the United States, from Austin, Texas. We are live at COTA for the third time here in Zoom Racing League. 3 seasons back-to-back we have raced here. It is a 3.4-mile track, 20 turns, 2 DRS zones, a tricky middle sector, and a couple of really long straights that can lead to some good overtaking opportunities. We've seen absolute bangers of a race here. We saw a wet race last season in Division 1, which saw Joel Guron put on an absolute clinic on the wet tires. It looks like we're going to have a dry race tonight, so no drama. We've had a completely dry weekend through all 4 of our divisions, and it is time for the fastest of the fast to get busy and show us what they can do. Taking a look at the standings right now, Red Bull is dominating, 57 points to 43 in AlphaTauri. Honda Power with a combined 100 points over the meager 37 for Mercedes, 31 for Ferrari, 26 for Alfa Romeo. Most of those points for Honda coming by way of Hudson Poole, Lee Hall, and Duncan McCamick. 4 of the top 5, all Honda powered. Travis Robinson, the load Mercedes power in that top 5. Rounding out the top 5, Ian Krager in the, pardon me, folks, in the Ferrari. So good little mix up near the front, Big Mama Frank. And I think tonight these guys are going to be doing a lot of the same. We're going to see a lot of different constructors up near the front. I know you're a huge Red Bull guy now that you have left us at Mercedes and gone over to Red Bull. So I know you guys probably have some tricks up your sleeve over there, don't you?
Well, in my defense, I didn't necessarily leave Mercedes. I was sort of picked by Red Bull against my will, without any choice. So I'm like one of those kids that got drafted into Vietnam, dude. So, but in terms of Red Bull, we definitely spent a lot of time this week trying to figure a lot of things out because there were a ton of. This track provides so many different challenges that pretty much no other track in the game provides. There's the first sector and the third sector just are very unique sectors just that you just don't really see on any other part of the calendar, and they just provide particularly just tire temps. It's like the one track where your tire temps are going to overheat no matter what, and you just have to figure out a way to deal with it. It's really bizarre, and it's a fun challenge having to deal with that.
Absolutely. It's that's one of the things that Duncan and I talked about earlier in the week. I made the decision to come out of retirement and fill in for Division 4 and lasted less than a lap, but I know how tricky those S's can be. Had a great battle there in Season 2 with OG Campbell Lowry Hart, who, congratulations to him, first time race winner in the AlphaTauri. So Honda Power doing great across all the divisions, so everybody's going to be real excited. A little bit tricky this weekend with the full qualifying. We don't normally run that, so a lot of guys I noticed in Division 3 and Division 2 having some conversations after the race that they weren't really quite prepared for it. They knew it was coming, but you kind of get used to that doing short qualifying, the 18 minutes alone, and then you forget, oh yeah, no, I shouldn't come out on mediums right now. I need to save those for Q2.
Right, we did see if quite a few people did kind of come out and kind of scrub their mediums in Q1 yesterday, and so that was a little bit surprising for me. But like, I think it's what you said though. People are just kind of, because the Q1 time is the same as the short qualifying time. I think some people just didn't realize we were in full quali until the last second.
I mean, it's disappointing, but that's part of the game, right? You gotta remember, you gotta strategize, you gotta be communicating with your team. Speaking of communicating with your team, welcome Eric McNerney, the artist formerly known as Logic, was a Ferrari driver for several seasons. He is back full time, folks. Has taken the spot of Hunter J in the Alpine. So Freddie Rousel today scrambling at the last minute to try to find a driver and was able to snap up Eric McNerney. So Logic is back full time. Check him out on Spotify as well. Eric does a lot of good stuff for us here in Zoom Racing League as far as providing sound for us, and his Spotify is really cool. He's got some really neat soundscapes he makes, so go check him out. We'll promote him here real quickly, and we'll get back to the racing. Right now, Thermo sitting in P1 with 11 minutes left. He has a 31.8. That's not a super competitive time, but not a bad starting time either. So Damian Doe with a 32 flat, Victor Diaz 32.1, Duncan McCamick 32.1, Eric McNerney, Snappy, Jack Pemberton, Chris Hannigan, Barney Giltmere, Jordan Angus, the top 10 have all put in laps. We have 6 drivers still in the pits. as we get started to try to put in some decent banker laps. John Pilon out of the session. He will be starting in P20. We'll try to check in with the Haas garage and see what happened there.
So one thing that we have noticed throughout the race weekend so far in all three of the previous divisions, compared to times we were doing in practice, everyone was kind of well below what their personal bests are just doing multiplayer sessions or Grand Prix mode. So I kind of expect a little bit of the same here. I know we have quite a few guys that are capable of doing mid to low 30s. If they're able to put in a perfect lap together, but I don't expect that pole for this session will be that low.
So getting a message here from Pilon, he will not be attending the race. He will be out. Had a gearbox issue that will not be able to be fixed. He was not able to shift his car. Had a very similar issue with Connor. So that's two of our drivers in two of our divisions that have had gearbox issues that we've recently made a change where we've gone from automatic to forced manual gearbox, and seems to be an issue here in COTA, and so that's one driver already out. So we will only be saying goodbye to 4 drivers at the end of here, as Pilon is officially out, the French-Canadian driver. Disappointing to see him gone. So the hopes of Canada lie in the hands of Jack Pemberton, Travis Robinson, let's see who else, John Ranger, and Jordan Angus, our remaining Canadian drivers.
Not a bad lineup though for the Canadians. That's quite a lot of speed just from one little country, you know.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Jack Fletcher is also Canadian. I'll have to double check that, but I believe that is the case.
So looking at these lap times, a lot of people look to be waiting until the end of the session to be able to kind of go on the track and just kind of only use their one set of tires for Q1. So we don't really have a lot of super competitive times. And there we go. We have Travis who gets pulled there with the 31.7.
Pretty good banker lap there from Travis. So I think we're going to see times dip below 31. I wouldn't be surprised to see some 30.8 and 30.9. But again, those are usually found, like you and Duncan and I were talking about earlier. That's ideal. That's in a time trial setting where you don't have to worry about tire wear or fuel loads and managing your battery. So is it possible for one of these drivers to hit that 30.8, 30.9? Or are we going to see mostly 31s today?
I think in Q3 we'll see a few of them. We'll probably see high 30s, probably maybe at the fastest, maybe at 30.7. But I think we definitely will see it from a few people. Because one thing we always see from guys like, or particularly Travis and Ian, is they may start off a little bit slow, but then once they get laps going, these full qualifying kind of help them a lot because they kind of get themselves into the rhythm. And they usually put up some really, really competitive times at the end.
Looking at the telemetry right now, Travis Robinson fastest in the first and second sectors. Gator Jason Pelter in P7 currently with the fastest third sector. So very interesting there. Of course, we have not seen a time from Peter or Ian yet. Hudson Poole goes fastest with a 31.4. He was faster in sector 3, but Travis still faster in the first 2 sectors. So if Travis can find a little bit of time, we'll have another Hudson and Travis shootout here as it goes down to the wire in Q3.
Yeah, very potentially, but 5/10 nearly for Hudson in that third sector alone. So that's going to be quite the amount of time to try to find, because looking at everyone else's laps in their sector 3s in particular, Travis isn't much faster than everyone else's. That's an insanely fast third sector for Hudson.
Riding on board with Mr. Reliable, here comes Jack Fletcher through, kind of calling, I think PBJ calls this kind of the stadium section of this track, down through the final tricky turns, and down through turn 19, and here we go through turn 20 onto the main straight. You got to keep it tight, but not too tight. You can easily pick up a track limits on both of those spots. Jack Fletcher keeps it just inside and goes P10. He'll be really happy about that time. His partner Guac, a little bit behind him. We'll see what Guac can do here. Got several reserves in here tonight. We got Thermo in P3 currently as a reserve. Eric McNerney was signed up as a reserve, but signed to a full-time seat just before the race. Guac in a P12 as a reserve. Snappy is here in the Alpine as a reserve. Barney Goatmere down in P15. Alex Duarte also filling in down in P19 for McLaren. The Mexican boy wonder Ricardo T is not here this week after his strange retirement in Brazil last week, so he will not be back to try to push things towards the end. And this is one of the things that some of the team principals we talked about and had some concerns about when it came to drafting these guys is who you would pick up, who might be missing. And a night like tonight is a night that Hudson Poole, Travis Robinson, and maybe even a Victor Diaz can pick up a lot of extra points that might have been taken away by Ricardo.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they have a solid reserve. Alex has definitely shown some solid pace over the last couple of weeks, but it will be curious to see how he will fare against these D1 drivers. One of the biggest things that we've kind of seen, or one of the biggest things I think has been a surprise compared to the last time we came to USA last season, was how much closer everyone was able to race against each other. I think in every division last time, I mean, with the exception of D1 because of those really challenging conditions they had to drive in, everyone basically just fell out of DRS from front to back. So this time around, we've seen everyone has been a lot more effective at maintaining their intervals between each other and maintaining those DRS trains. And it can be really difficult for people who are having a sub in higher divisions to try to maintain that pace and stick in those trains. So it'll be interesting to see if Alex has the pace to kind of keep up with everyone else.
Well, speaking of maintaining the pace, Chris Hannigan on the bubble right now, nearing that bottom. He's going to have to improve this time here. Someone that doesn't need to worry about improving their time right now, Julia Angus is in the chat and says, go Jordan Angus. Woo! Well, Jordan Angus sitting P4 in that Williams. That is a hell of a time for Jordan there with a 1:31.9. Really good work there from the young Canadian.
Yeah, that's a really good time.
Speaking of which, Peter Giordano, the first Ferrari set of time, goes P6. Ian Krieger back into the pits. He's going to have to do some work here with 4 minutes left. Going to have time for maybe a double push lap after he gets those tires changed, and that's going to be about it. He's leaving the pits now and going around through turn 1, so we'll see what he can do. Still riding on board with Chris Hannigan. Currently sitting P15 and on danger of being knocked out. PBJ, one of the fastest drivers in the league, regardless of what you put him on. He's a absolute just god in ACC and iRacing, and decided to come back. He's put ACC on the shelf for now. Hasn't been doing as much iRacing, but he is back in F1 2021 for the final season of that game here in Zoom Racing League, and he's trying to get himself into Q2. Let's see what he can do through this fast technical sector. Nobody ahead, no pressure from behind. Travis Robinson's retired from the session in P2. Don't think he lost. I think he just thinks he's safe with that 31.7.
Oh yeah, he's easily safe at this point. It's only 3 minutes left. We have quite a few people who are nearly a second behind him at this point. So I think the cutoff time will probably be about a second behind where he's at. So he's fine to retire. He probably the nice thing about retiring is you can spectate people's POV, watch their inputs, kind of see what they're doing.
Well, the good news for PBJ is he jumped to P11, so got himself into that safety barrier, but immediately gets pipped by Guac, and then Barney Goatmere has something to say about that as he goes P9. So Chris Hannigan slowly getting pushed back down to that danger zone. Jack Fletcher still sitting in the pits at P15. I think he is rolling his way out to do his final attempt. So we'll see what he can do. Let's take a look at Snappy. He's still in Sector 1. He's up 2/10 on his time. At best, that's going to take him up to P14. But he is the driver at risk of getting sent packing and have to sit and watch in Q2. So right now, we'd be saying goodbye to Snappy, John Ranger, Ian Krieger, and Alex Duarte. I don't think there's any real worry that Ian's going to stay there. He is on a valid lap, starting his first push lap here. He's got to keep it valid, though. He invalidated earlier. Has not set a time, and we're way into Q1 here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Ian is confident that he can easily beat these times, but it's really easy to make a mistake on this track, and just particularly track limits. So, I mean, if I was engineering for him, I probably would have had him go out a lot sooner than that, because we all know he's very easily capable of getting through Q1. But why, kind of have that run that risk of potentially invalidating and not being able to push again?
That should be Snappy coming through here pretty quickly to set a time. Damian Doe up into P3, bumps Thermo and Jordan Angus and Peter Giordano down a spot. Really good time from Damian, former Williams driver in an Alfa Romeo now. Snappy goes P12 to increase his time or go faster by almost 4/10, pushes Chris Hannigan down to P15. So Chris Hannigan looking at elimination here as he's got John Ranger, Ian Kreger in particular, and probably Jack Fletcher looking to set a lot better times here. Let's check in with Eric McNerney. And Eric has invalidated his lap, so next across the line should be Ian Kreger, the Ferrari driver, the wonder child, one of our really fast, quick time trial sweats, who has really come on as a more mature racer at the end of last season and so far this season. And P18 currently goes provisional pole for Q1 with a 31.4. That pushes Chris Hannigan down to P16. Too late for him to come out, so we're going to say goodbye as it sits right now to both McLaren drivers. And if you're Adam Klein, you're probably scratching your head a little here.
Yeah, you definitely be disappointed, especially with your reserve driver not even able to put in a lap. So I'm not sure what happened there. I think Alex may have just gone out too late and just kind of wasn't able to put one together. So that's really unfortunate.
Snappy's on a slow lap here. Victor retires. John Ranger says he's done. Doesn't feel like he's going to be able to improve that at all.
We got Jack Fletcher on a lap.
Where's Jack currently on track? He's a little ways back there. I was trying to see if any of the rest of these guys up here. Snappy about to finish a lap. No, he's way off the pace here. Peter Giordano next across the line. Let's see if he can improve.
Across the line too.
All right, check in with him. So Peter stays P7. Duncan McCamick currently in P11. He's safe and jumps all the way up to P6, pushes Peter down to P8. So he is safe and then some. Jordan Angus is done. Jack Fletcher will be our last one, I think, that can set a lap and make any sort of difference here. Eric McNerney on the bubble. And, actually, is Eric the next across the line? He is. Here we go, Eric. He invalidated. That's it for Eric. Should have probably gone into the pits there. I don't know if he invalidated at the last minute. Jack Fletcher up 1/10 on his time. That will be just good enough to put him into P15. Let's see if he can increase just a little bit here through the final two turns as he rounds the ultimate turn towards the start-finish line. Keeps it just within the bounds of the track and goes P8 for Jack Fletcher. Really good time. Outdoes his teammate by a good margin. Guac down in P15 and at risk. Well, no, he's not. Everyone is done. So we will be saying goodbye to Eric McNerney, who's in a new ride tonight, Chris Hannigan, John Ranger, Alex Duarte, and John Pilon, who will not be taking part in the race. Not going to be able to get that gearbox back in the car, so no chance to start from the pit lane. That's it for John Pilon. Julia Angus in the chat, number 5 in the race, number 1 in my heart. Yeah, Jordan Angus, great dude. We're really glad to have him here. Campbell, Jordan is the 5th greatest driver I've ever seen. Thanks, OG. I appreciate that. All right, folks. So your top 15 are set. While we have a break here, the drivers are going to cool off, talk some strategy, slap on some medium tires, and refuel. Now's a good time. If you haven't yet, go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave us a comment in the chat who you think's going to wind up on pole. Is it going to be Ian? Is it going to be Hudson? Travis? Can Damien do something here? Can Thermo pull something out? Thermo promised pole for us this weekend. Hasn't happened yet. Can he do it here in Division 1 in Zoom Racing League? Go get yourself something to drink and some tater chips, and we'll be back in just a moment, folks. Why does that keep happening? For some reason, when I hit the escape key. Folks, bear with me for just one moment while I get myself sorted. I think I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. I am good at things and stuff. All right, we should be back live. 15 drivers on track for Q2. Let's see who we've got. We got Snappy Peter Giordano, Thermo Victor Diaz, Ian Krager, Jack Pemberton, Jordan Angus, Barney Goatmere, Duncan McCamick, Jason Pelter, the Gator, Hudson, the youngest driver currently in Division 1, Damien Doe, Guac the reserve, Travis Robinson, my favorite Canadian, and Jack Fletcher. So we've got a pair of AlphaTauris, a pair of Red Bulls, a pair of Mercedes, and some other people. All right, a pair of Ferraris as well, folks. Getting a little bit of feedback in the chat particularly from the Alpine garage, or I'm sorry, the Aston Martin garage, maybe a little bit of a desync issue happening on track. Hoping that's not the case. So to start Q2, interesting to see we only have Snappy, Jack Pemberton, and Guac out on the medium tires. I think the rest of the league has paid attention to what happened in Division 3 and Division 2, where folks really wanted to make sure they made it through to Q3, and almost everyone was on Q2 in the softs.
It's just so hard to put in a really competitive time with the mediums. They're just really slow relative to the softs at a one-lap pace. So the only way for you to really get through on the mediums is if everyone kind of handshake agrees to go out on the mediums. But if enough people go on the softs, and you just invalidate any kind of options by going out on the soft or on mediums, excuse me.
Also getting word that Ranger, part of the reason he is out of quali as well and didn't set a more competitive time, he is stuck on the default setup. For some reason, his setup didn't load, and he's set on the balanced default. So earlier in the game, when the game first came out, that was an okay setup to start with, to kind of learn the tracks and set a moderately competitive time. But balanced default setup just not competitive anymore after the few little patches that Codemasters has done here and there.
It's a bit understeery, but the advantage that it kind of gives you is stability and straight line speed, since you'll likely be running less downforce than everyone else. We actually had a practice race earlier this week where Sid had the same issue. He forgot to load a setup in a practice race, and he was still extremely competitive. But that's Sid.
Right.
Sid just doing Sid things.
Sid's also the only guy in the league that can win a race on hard tires and run them for 2/3 of the race. So he's built different for sure. So we can kind of give away the secret a little bit now. I talked to Duncan earlier in the week, and he made me promise not to tell anyone, and I didn't until this moment right here. But I understand Red Bull is actually running a pretty high downforce setup for this race weekend, and mainly to get through the more technical sectors, and hoping that the DRS is going to be enough to carry them through, and that they can follow closely. Thermo sets a 31.5 to start Q2.
Yeah, that is accurate. Our strategy this week has been very high downforce. It's mainly to be able to just fly through the first and third sectors. You make up way more time through those two sectors than you do down the back straight. So even if you can follow closer, it's just a little hard to overtake. You just lose out in those two sectors.
Well, I was trying not to give away all the secrets, but Campbell Lowry Hard here, Mr. OG giving away the store in the chat. Race winner with 10-11 wings. So, yeah, I knew the numbers, just, again, didn't want to say anything, don't want to give away too many secrets. But if the AlphaTauri team principal wants to give it away, he is welcome to do that. So, 31.455 for Hudson Poole, 31.6 for Travis Robinson, 32.6 for Jack Fletcher, Barney Goatmere, rounding out the five that have set a lap so far with a 32.6. Next across the line looks to be Snappy, I believe. And no time there. Be Jason Pelter or Damien next. Well, I guess my eyes deceived me. It was Damien. Damien went a 31.8 P4. So got about 10 minutes here. It's going to be mostly about getting some rubber down and kind of sighting everything in to see how much quicker the track is here in Q2, more than it is to immediately go and set a banger of a lap.
Right, and what we're probably seeing from the guys who just immediately went out, they probably are on their Q1 tires, just setting a delta for themselves. So, I mean, knowing Hudson, that's probably not a time he's very happy with, and so he'll definitely go back out at least one more time.
Yeah, and that's the thing you got to remember with the tires you use the most during qualifying, you cannot use in the race. So it makes sense to burn these up now, get a little more rubber down, grip up the track, which I think is still weird to say because I'm not the level of these guys, or I'm not the level of our Division 2 drivers, and especially somebody like you, Big Mama Frank, that's had some real experience in some really good leagues. Like, to me, the track always kind of feels the same. I can't really tell when, like, okay, it's fast now. Now I know it's rubbered in, but I guess you faster guys, you can actually tell that.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely can tell. A lot of it is simply just everything feels more responsive in the small little kind of steering inputs, and also just like being able to just be more aggressive with the throttle. You definitely feel that, particularly on this track.
All right, so we've got Jack Fletcher and Barney who've set a time in the pits. Snappy Peter Giordano in the pits. Walk in the pits. So I think you're exactly right, Big Mama Frank. I think they went and just burn up those tires a little bit, and now they're going to start getting serious about setting a time. Jack Pemberton's invalidated, recharging his battery, did not go into the pits, so he is going to go out and go ahead and set a lap basically on the track by himself right now. We've got 4 other drivers out, but I think at least 1 or 2 of them may be coming in. Let's check in with Ian, see what he does. And yeah, Ian immediately goes into the pits. And let's see, what is Jason Peltzer doing? Jason invalidates as he comes around the corner. So hopefully that was not a good lap for him. Looks like he was only down in 9,000. So this will be his good push lap. Well, no, he's got no battery left and his fuel light flashing. So this may be an in lap from Peltzer. I don't think you want to try to push it too hard here and end up running out of fuel.
We straight up can't do back-to-back on this track. If you try to go back-to-back, as soon as you hit the turn 8, you're just going to overheat your tires, and the rest of the lap is just ruined. It's straight up impossible to try to go back-to-back.
Hey, who is this out here? That's going to be Jordan Angus. Jordan's fuel light's on. He's about out of battery and goes a little bit wide and does invalidate through the penultimate turn. Got to pay attention to that. He does. Tries to go into the pits and misses. Oh, dear. That is... It's not so late in quality that's a disaster, but that's a huge mistake because now you've got to try to limp that thing all the way back around and not run out of fuel.
This actually happened to Sid in Q2 yesterday also. So he missed he was just not paying attention and just drove right by the pit entry, and then he had to do the whole in lap with low fuel mode. Luckily he was able to get back in and put in a competitive time, but it was really close.
Jack Pemberton goes P3 with a 31.5. Pretty decent lap there from Jack. Wondering if he is still having that desync issue. I'm waiting to hear something from Joel here. I think Joel Buron, who, by the way, happy birthday to Zooks, the team principal of Aston Martin. He is in their engineering. He's watching as well. So happy birthday, dude. Super happy to have you as part of this league. You're a great guy, and you went around the sun one more time. Good job.
So the interesting thing about what we've seen from the lap so far is that Jack Pemberton actually had the fastest first 2 sectors so far. He was just 3/10 behind Hudson in the 3rd sector.
Yeah, he is flying right now. I want to see how that compares to Travis. So he is fully 1/10 faster than Travis in Sector 1 and 600ths faster in Sector 2. So yeah, I mentioned before the broadcast that Jack had posted something that he was posting some really good times, and there was a little bit of disbelief in some of the folks that I was in the chat with that Jack was going to be setting down some good times. But yeah, man, I'm sure he's super happy right now. It stinks that his teammates out, but I'm sure they're super happy in the Aston Martin garage at the moment.
We'll see what happens in Q3, because one thing that I kind of hit a wall sort of. I think I set my best lap in Q2 or Q1 and just kind of struggled to kind of beat it at the end. So it's possible that a lot of these guys will have the same issue where they'll put in their best lap and then just can't match it or beat it for the rest of the qualifying session. So we'll see what happens in Q3.
All right, Siggy, if you're watching, we're going to go full cinematic here. Jack Fletcher up half a second on his time. We'll watch him through the technical sector here, riding on board in the number 98 AlphaTauri, that Honda Power engine, sounding moderately decent to okay-ish. as he takes a really tight line through here, flat out through this sector, all the way up to 7th gear. Gonna look for the little black box on the right side, shift down 2 gears, don't run it out wide, keep it nice and tight here. 6th gear, black box, you want to go down 4 gears. Oh, he's gonna keep it in 3rd, short shift to 4th. I usually go 2nd, 3rd there, and Jack Fletcher crosses the line to move up to P11, it looks like on the telemetry. Yeah, P11.
He invalidated the lap on that last corner.
Oh, no, and he was 8/10 up. That would have been a great lap for Jack. That would have put him in the 31.4s. That would have put him up near the top.
Yeah, it would have been a really nice lap, but I'll have to try again. Hopefully he has enough fuel, I believe. No, he doesn't. He's going to have to come in and try to go back around really quickly.
The only disadvantage to go in cinematic mode for our buddy is can't see anything on the screen, so you got to look at the telemetry, and it doesn't immediately tell us, or at least I didn't notice it when he invalidated. I'm guessing that's what I'm actually seeing on the screen, the red square all the way to the right side. Taking a look at Travis Robinson here. What can he do? Doesn't really need to do much. 31.6 is a pretty good time. There may be a couple people push him down, but as long as you're inside that top 10, you got to feel pretty confident right now. But Travis is going to try to improve that time. His teammate Victor Diaz down in P9, quite a bit separating the two of them right now. So Victor's got some work to do in the other Mercedes.
Now, I would assume for everyone who's going on their outlaps now, they're probably on fresh tires at this point. It would be really a big mistake to go back out on scrub tires at this point, because you have to start your race on really old tires.
Go and change our detail up here. We don't need to see what tires everyone's on. Everyone's on soft tires, so we'll clean up the screen just a little bit so you can see a little bit more of the racing. So here comes Guak. Can he improve his time? No, not enough to make any sort of difference. Still in P11. Let's check in with Snappy, see what he does. He invalidated his lap. Where's Peter Giordano? He's coming across the line now to set a time, and Peter goes P5, pushes Jordan Angus down into P11. We're going to have Victor crossing the line here in just a second. Victor goes up to P6 to try to get himself a little bit of safety gap. Puts Jordan Guak, Jason Pelter, Jack Fletcher, and Snappy in the danger zone. Jack Fletcher currently in the pits with 2 minutes left. Got to have to swap those tires out quickly and get back into it. Snappy retires from the session. Can't tell if he lost the car. We do see a localized yellow where he was driving. Ian Kreger puts it on a provisional Q2 pole with a 31.3. That's a really nice lap from him.
Looks like Snappy just kind of retired on the track. So that, I hope he didn't block anyone there with his AI.
Okay, Travis Robinson. Okay, Travis Robinson with a 31.2. Really nice lap there from Trav. Yeah, is that Damien? Damien crossed the line. He is P9, still safe for right now. So got to keep an eye on Barty, Jordan, Guak, and Pelter. Jordan is still a ways back. Let's check in with Pelter. Pelter's going to be our next one across the line. He is up 3/10. Keeps it tight through the penultimate turn and through the ultimate turn. Can he keep it clean? Does just barely keep it clean. Jason Pelter goes P7, keeps him safe, safe for now as he pushes Barney down. Next across the line is going to be Guak. Well, I take that back. He goes into the pits. Peter Giordano is on an in lap. He is coming in. He is out of fuel, but he's safe in P6.
Hudson, who I think I said the first two fastest sectors so far in this session.
Hudson flying right now. Let's check in with Jordan Angus. Jordan has 49 seconds. Okay, Jordan's crossed the line, invalidated that lap, but he is currently sitting in P12. So Jordan's got a lot of work to do. He's got to have almost a perfect lap here to make something happen. Thermo is on an out lap. He is safe. So Victor Diaz retires from the session. Feels like he's safe enough. Not enough time for him to get back out. So who's it going to be? Is it going to be Barney, Jordan Angus? Hudson Poole does go fastest with a 31.0. So there it is, Big Mama Frank. We are getting down into the 31 flat to below a 31 territory, and we're not even in Q3 yet.
Yeah, we're about to see some really, really amazing laps for Q3 out of our top 3 right now. So I'm excited to see what kind of times they can do.
Duncan McCamick about to come and finish line. Try to improve his time. Will improve just a little bit, all the way up to P6. Improves his safety net just a little bit. Driver at risk is Damien now. Where's Damien sitting currently? Let's see. Damien is just starting a lap. so far has it valid. Let's see what he does as he finishes up sector 1, and then we'll go check in with his teammate Jason Pelter, see if Jason's improving his time. Damien's slow right now, 7 seconds, so I think he's done with that one. Jason Pelter, can he improve his time? Does not, goes into the pits. So the people that are done: Travis Robinson, Ian Krager, Jack Pemberton, Duncan McCamick, Peter Giordano. Jordan Angus is going to have to sell, and he's invalidated, so P12 is the best it's going to be for him. So Jack Fletcher, what can you do? Are you not entertained, folks? 0.1 up on his time. Can he improve? A little bit of wheel spin, little wiggly there. Lost almost a tenth on that. So Jack's going to have to do a lot of work here. He's got a big improvement to make. He's got to improve almost 7/10 of a second. I think there's just not enough track left to do that at this time.
Yeah, definitely not here. The most you could probably get here is if he hit this perfectly, maybe 3 or 4 tenths, but...
So will we
I
say
think
goodbye to
it's
Jack Pemberton, and can Damien Doe increase his safety stock here? So Jack Fletcher invalidates. Oh, he was up 3/10. Wouldn't have been enough. Would have barely put him in front of his teammate Guac. So that is it. We will say goodbye to Jack Fletcher. Damien does not need to complete that lap. Pulls into the pits wisely. He'll be followed by the Red Bull. So your top 10 going into Q3. It's going to be Hudson Poole, Travis Robinson, Ian Krager, Thermo, Jack Pemberton, Duncan McCamick, Peter Giordano, the artist formerly known as Gator. It's Jason Pelter, Victor Diaz, and Damien Doe. Both Alfa Romeos into Q3. Both Williams we are saying goodbye to. Barney Goatmere and Jordan Angus. And both AlphaTauris are going to have a seat on the bench. Guac and Jack Fletcher are done. Snappy, the other Alpine, is going to go and have a chat with his teammate, Eric McNerney. And we'll be sitting back with the rest of us folks to watch Q3. I say it every time we take a break, and I'll say it yet again. Make sure you like and subscribe for more great content like this, and probably some even better content when other people are on the mic. We'll be back in just a few minutes with Q3. Right now, let us know in the chat who is putting it on poll. Will it be Hudson, Travis, Ian? Can Thermo shock people? Does Jack Pemberton still have something in the bag? Will Duncan McCamick surprise us? Peter Giordano and the other Ferrari putting in great times? Or is it time for one of the Alfa Romeos or Victor Diaz to show us something they've been holding on to? We'll see you in just a few minutes, folks. All right, let's see if I can do it this time without screwing everything up. There we go, folks. I am learning. Look at me. You can teach an elderly dog new tricks. Poll is up in the chat on the stream. Who gets poll? Is it Travis? Is it Ian? Is it Hudson? Or is someone else here to play the spoiler? Let us know what you think. Answer the poll. And give us a shout out in the stream. Who's the driver you're rooting for right now? Even if it's not your favorite driver, even if you're Julia right now, and I know you were pulling for Jordan Angus. If Jordan can't be it, who are you pulling for? Is it fellow Canadian Travis Robinson, fellow Canadian Jack Pemberton, or is it one of the American weirdos? Let us know in the chat, please. So what's the play here, Big Mama Frank? Do you want to go out and set a banker real quick and then kind of sit back? Or is it just kind of like push and just see what you can make happen here?
I think for Q3, it's mostly push. Most people, because nobody really did waste any time on the mediums, they probably set their banker in Q2 on scrubbed tires from Q1. So they don't really have a set of tires that they can use, a set of used tires, excuse me, to to set a banker in Q3. So it's either just go out, do your best lap, and just retire, or go out, do your best lap, go back in, and use your final set of tires if you have them.
Chat looking really one-sided so far on the poll. It looks like, well, numbers are changing a little bit here, but right now it looks like Hudson is leading from someone else, Ian, and then Travis. I feel like, you know, for a group of folks that seems to like me and like our Mercedes drivers, they sure don't seem to want to vote for him. It's very interesting. So hopefully Travis can use that somehow. You know, a lot of high-level athletes can tap into people, you know, not loving them, not embracing them, and they can use that as sort of a fire to help push them and help them focus. As Thermo goes around, and Thermo is able to save it. How do you do that? I need to learn this trick. How do you guys do this? If I were to spin like that, I would not only lose my front wing, I would break 3 of the 4 tires off, and somehow, even though it's not in our damage settings, my rear wing would break off as well, and my driver would just go flying into the stands. I don't know how guys hit like that and don't DNF the car. I don't get it.
I think I think Thermo got really lucky. He hit his nose right in the middle of the wall rather than his wheels or his suspension, so I think that kind of saved him. It does seem a little bit finicky, but I think the suspension is really soft in terms of the damage model relative to if you just hit it right on the front nose.
Fair enough. So Barney Goatmere says Barney would have had pole if Snappy didn't impede. Barney, you're using your own name. We know who you are. You could like put up a fake account or something. It'd be more convincing, bro. So yeah, Barney out of this qualifying session. I believe this is the 3rd race for Barney this weekend. He raced in D3, raced in D2, and now racing in D1. It's man, that's a lot. I don't know if I could do 3 races. I say that. I also raced a 2.4 hour ACC race this weekend by myself. I usually have a teammate, but his wife had a work emergency. Jack Pemberton said it's our first time at a 31.5. We did 2.4 hours at Kyalami, a really fun track. And part of the reason I bring it up is Ian goes at 31.1 is next year in F1 2023, they may be returning to South Africa and running the F1 cars back at Kyalami. And I think that could be potentially really exciting. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Kyalami is a great track.
From what I understand, it is not up to spec in terms of the tier 1 tracks or however FIA classifies them. So they'll have to do some work on that track to get it up to spec.
Speaking of up to spec, Damian Doe is clean on his first time to lap and goes P4 with a 31.8. I don't think that's going to be competitive for the top 4 towards the end of the session, but a good way to start. Ian Krager, 31.1, 31.3 for Travis, Peter Giordano, 31.5, and 31.5 for Jack Pemberton. So Damian's got a little bit of work to do there, but not a bad start. Victor Diaz just goes a 31.7. So both of the Mercedes-powered units in the top 5, and they're actually the only Mercedes power. Oh, no. Jack Pemberton. So out of the top 10, only 3 Mercedes powered cars, only 2 Honda powered cars, everyone else Ferrari powered. So are the Ferrari boys all onto something here? Or is a bunch of this just luck of the draft and just a good weekend and a good track that these guys enjoy?
I think one thing we may be dealing with is the track temperature is about 7 degrees lower than it was in the first 2 sessions, which will affect grip. So Q3 is not going to be as grippy as people may be expecting. Because I think Ian and Travis and Peter should all have had better laps than we've seen so far. But because of this overcast and the potential for even rain, I think there's a 19% chance of rain 5 minutes into the session. So we're probably not going to get to see those super fast flyers like we were hoping for.
Now, Damian's teammate Jason Pelcher, the Gator, chomps himself into a 31.8. Not an incredible time, but good first banker lap. Get you kind of sighted in, kind of see what the evolution of the track is doing right now. Damian, I believe, will be coming back in. I don't think he's going to do a back-to-back push here. Now his battery's fully charged. He comes into the pits. I believe Peter Giordano will be doing the same. Yeah, Peter out of fuel and out of battery. Victor Diaz coming around next is recharging his battery to start nope, he's into the pits as well. This is exciting, folks. So our next time lap will probably be from Thermo. No, Duncan is still out. Let's see if he is currently recharging his battery. He is recharging the battery. Fuel light is flashing, so he'll be done. So we'll just ride on board with the only American F1 team member still out there, Thermo, in the unfortunately the game hasn't updated, and still a Russian flag livery with the Uralkali on the side. Of course, The real card looks much different now for 2022, and the new game releases this summer, it will also look very different. But the Haas team had a pretty decent weekend. Mick Schumacher was up towards the points there for a while. Kevin Magnussen had an okay session, then got a penalty for weaving, and then had some contact in the real race as well. And just they went from looking like rock stars the last couple of weeks to looking a little more like wankers.
Yeah, they really did. I think they both really helped their just invalidating this lap, but Haas really kind of, both their drivers just really ruined their own race, and it was really frustrating to watch because we were so close to seeing Schumacher get his first points, man, and he just decides to, I'm just going to dive bomb into Seb, who's like my best friend, and then ruin my race.
Yeah, that was a little crazy to see. They have a very very tight, friendly relationship. A lot of that father-son stuff, the same stuff that Michael, of course, did for Sebastian Vettel when he came into F1. As Jack Pemberton looks like he's going to be leaving the pits. He'll be our first one on an outlap. Thermo recharging his battery. He does look like he has enough fuel to go back to back here. Just taking his time and kind of cooling off, taking a deep breath. Just going to limp it back around, and then the problem you got here though, Big Mama Frank. Tell me if I'm wrong here, but going this slow, he's losing a lot of temperature in those tires, isn't he?
It's not too much of an issue here. You can pretty much get your tires will be overheated just from a pretty slow outlap. Like in terms of overheat, in terms of where you want to start, because like I said, this track just really cooks your tires. So and also the softs, it only takes you maybe like 2 corners to get them up at temp. So it's not a big issue here.
Thermo goes back in. His fuel light wasn't on, so I'm curious is he just wanting to change tires here, because we're down to almost 3 minutes left in the session. It's going to have to be real quick if he's going to do anything better than P9 here. Hudson Poole still hasn't set a lap either. I wonder what he is holding on for. So let's jump on board with Jack Pemberton in the Aston Martin. He'll be our first driver out. Then it looks like we got a couple of Ferraris and one Red Bull on track. And Damien also out, while Jason Pelter is still sat in the pits with 3 minutes to go. We're getting close to that cutoff time. I think if you leave the pits with 1:50 or so left, you can make it around just in time to start a lap, depending on how hard you push on the out lap. But man, you don't want to gamble too much on that. You want to give yourself a little bit of space to make it around and get that final lap put in.
Yeah, you definitely don't. It looks like Hudson and Duncan are both kind of burning a bunch of fuel down the back straight, so they're both just about to send it for just one final time.
And who's in front currently? Is Duncan going to be providing the tow for Hudson here?
No, there's no way that they do that. One of them will go first, but this track is just, you can't have somebody driving in front of you for the entire lap. It's just going to kill both of you.
Well, and you definitely know what the advantage of that tow can be. You and Sid set one up beautifully last night and gained you, probably 3/10 on the back straight, just having that draft?
It was a pretty bad lap. I did set a better lap time without the tow, but yeah, it probably got me about 2/10 better than I would have done without it.
And that's one thing that I learned from Duncan is in season 2, he was using was it me and somebody else? Oh, it was Johannes. Johannes was my teammate for season 2, and set up a tow. Jack, he loses a little bit there out of the exit of that turn, and gets it back under control. But a little snap oversteer like that can cost you dear precious time when you're trying to put this thing on pole. But Duncan's really good at setting up tows, getting people in the right position at the right time, and knowing when to tell people to get the heck out of the way, and just kill your own lap to let your teammate through. It's really impressive to see someone do that coming from someone that doesn't know how to set it up.
So we just have Hudson start his final lap. Kind of our expected pole sitter. Let's see what he can do.
Jack Pemberton improves his time to a 31.4. Next across the line will be one of the Ferraris of Ian. Ian is up 2/10 on his time, so he will stay in P1, improve. So there is our first sub 31 time, 30.944. And Ian pulls off to the side. I wonder if he's going to try to go again. I don't think there's any reason to. Travis Robinson, no, Victor Diaz will be next. Victor is on an out lap here, getting ready to start his time lap. Thermo is still on an out lap, about to start a time lap. So Peter Giordano will be next across the line. He's up nearly 2/10. He's P4. Can he put it up by his teammate? Let's see what he does through this ultimate turn. Keeps it nice and clean, nice and tight. Peter Giordano goes P2, 2/10 faster, 31.2. There's still a lot of room for improvement for some of these guys, but right now it is a Ferrari 1-2 as we are in the closing stages here in Q3. Just 11 seconds to go. If you've not made it across the line, you will not be able to set another time. So Damien Doe, what can he do? Does improve his time by 2/10, goes P8 or P6 from P8. Could go again, but it looks to be thinking better of it and appears to have backed out. So that'll be it for Damien. He will be done. Next across the line, Mr. Hudson Poole. What can he do?
This is Poole, easy.
Easy pole, he says. Easy pole. It is 37.9. Fully 2/10 clear of Ian Krager. Goes Hudson Poole. What an absolute lap. What an absolute lap. There's Duncan McCamick at P3. So it is Red Bull from Ferrari, from Red Bull, from Ferrari. Folks, are we looking at the real life racing right now? It is all about Red Bull and Ferrari. Travis Robinson, P5 in the Mercedes. Jack Pemberton is done, stuck in P6. Damien cannot set a better lap. P7. Victor Diaz has a lot of work to do, up 1/10 on his time. Needs about 3/10 to get up near his teammate. Nice and tight, keeps it valid through the final little spot here. What can he do? Improves one spot to P7. So the three Mercedes in spots P5, 6, and 7. Couple Alfa Romeos. Damien cannot improve his time. It is down to Thermo. Thermo sets the final time, stuck in P8 in the Haas. But if you're Flossie, you are super happy to see your driver there. And that is it, folks, unless Peter is going again, and he is not. So on pole, it is Hudson Poole from Ian McGregor, Duncan McCamick, Peter Giordano starting in P4. The Italian-American drives that pony power to P4. Travis Robinson, Victor Diaz, Jack Pemberton, 5, 6, 7. Thermo, Damien Doe, and Jason Pelter round out your top 10, and we are done with qualifying here in Austin, Texas at the Circuit of the Americas. Hudson Poole waiting till the absolute last possible moment, and Big Mama Frank calls it. Watch the whole lap while we were watching everyone else, and as he came around through turn 19 into turn 20, you said, "This is Poole," and you were right, Big Mama Frank.
Yeah, he was up on Ian's time by over 2/10 in the first two sectors, so I knew it. All he had to do was just nail the last one. So, I wonder how much, because we saw overcast through the beginning of the session, I wonder how much it actually helped Hudson by waiting till the very last second to do that lap, because the sun came out. I wonder if the track temp went up enough to give him that extra grip to push for that pole lap.
Yeah, I don't know if that's some sort of witchcraft, wizardry. I don't know how these guys are so fast. It is absolutely nuts to me. All right, folks, we got just a couple of minutes here where the drivers are going to line back up to the grid. They're going to put on their race tires. They're going to get fully fueled up, make a last-second adjustment to pressures and to the front wing of their car. It's the only thing you can touch once it's in parc ferme. So there's your top 10. Hudson, Ian, Duncan, a top 3 American lockout. The Italian, Peter Giordano, a couple of Canadians in Travis and Jack Pemberton. Victor Thermo, Damien, and Jason, top 10. You'll get yourself, if you have not yet, like and subscribe. If you haven't yet, get yourself something to eat and some tater chips, and we will be back for 39 laps? I believe it's 39 laps.
28 laps.
28 laps. Math is hard, but liking and subscribing and paying attention to this great racing is not. 28 laps around the Circuit of Americas when we get back in just a moment, folks. Don't go anywhere. right, here we go. All right, folks, we are back. Brand new poll in the chat. Hudson Poole sticks it on pole. He won last week in Brazil. This is his home Grand Prix. Can the young American hold off Ian Kreger? Does he have some neat stuff he can work out with his teammate Duncan McCamick there in P3? What does Peter Giordano have to say about all this? We will find out here shortly after we finish up our formation lap. So far, the drivers keeping it clean. One of the interesting and annoying things about this game is, and it happened to me, Big Mama Frank, on Saturday night, is if you have any contact on the formation lap, it resets you back to the grid and you have to start on cold tires. And it's really frustrating because sometimes it's not even your fault. But I don't think we've seen that yet in Division 1. I think we saw it last year one time, or last season one time. But it's a really frustrating thing. And so luckily these guys are making sure to leave plenty of space as they weave and bobble around and try to warm up their tires.
Man, you just got to give more space. You have all the time that you need, all the time in the world to do the formation lap. You can get past, you can pass people. You have all the time you need. Dude, just give all the space that you possibly can, and just don't put yourself in a position where you might touch somebody.
All right.
That's the advice I can give everybody.
AWS, a pit strategy, says medium to hards. That's not going to happen. Most of these guys are going to go soft medium. Some folks even might go soft medium, depending if they have a little bit of early contact, a little bit of early wing breakage, or an early safety car. Hard tires, not super competitive here. However, it is one of the tracks where we talked about earlier about keeping temperature in the tires. It's one of those tracks you can keep temperature in the tires because it is not hard through those S's. As we talk about the tires, let's take a look at it. Jordan Angus, Jack Fletcher, Chris Hannigan, and Alex Duarte, the only ones opting for the medium tires, so they will be on the alternate strategy here. As we line them up, the grid is formed. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights out, and we are underway in green flag racing here in Zoom Racing League at COTA. Good getaway for Hudson Poole and Ian Kreger. Duncan McCamick, it looked like he had a little bit of wheel spin, sitting around the outside of Ian Kreger here, trying to get that spot into P2. Big loser so far. Damian Doe dropping 2 spots. Jason Peltzer, Barney Goatmere with excellent starts, moving up 2. Victor Diaz has dropped 3. John Pilon up 3 spots already. Chris Hannigan down 3 spots. Damian's now lost 4 spots. Jack Fletcher falling down the order, 4 spots down, all the way down to P18. And our top 7 really away and clean. Pretty good so far. Thermo almost had a little bit of an issue there. Travis Robinson gets around Peter Giordano, and we are racing. Guac dropping down to P20 from P7. Alex Duarte and all the medium runners look to be falling prey to all the soft runners here on the opening lap. Again, predicted pit stop strategy, soft, medium. Again, depends if you have damage. Soft, medium, a good alternate strategy. The medium, a decent race tire and can last more than half the race.
Yeah, just the issue that they're going to have for these medium runners is they're going to get gapped by pretty much all of the soft runners. So they're going to have to be really, really fast in the race and just pray that if a safety car comes, it comes at the opportune moment.
It looks like Jordan Angus has a little bit of damage to the front wing of that Williams. Everyone else seems to have gotten away clean as far as damage is concerned. A lot of damage mitigation is going to need to happen. Again, predicted pit stop strategy. I don't know why we've seen 3 different strategies up on the screen. Not likely, but still a cool graphic. So things will kind of settle down here. Folks will get locked into their positions. Guac still moving really slow. I'm going to assume he had a spin back there all the way in P20. Hudson Poole goes fastest, obviously. Always seems to be the case for P1. Travis Robinson making some good moves here, and looks to be trying to line up Duncan McCamick here. DRS will be activated at the end of this lap, start of the 3rd lap. Jordan Angus into the pit to replace that front wing. Let's take a look back there at Jordan and see what kind of tires he is going to be putting on. Going to the medium tires there for Jordan Angus. Jump back up to our top 5. Peter Giordano is currently in the DRS train. So it looks like we got a DRS train for the entire top 12. Then we have a bit of a gap between the Alpines, between Eric McNerney and Snappy. As Snappy actually snaps that up, closed up that gap a little bit. So now with the top 14 all in one single DRS train around the track here at COTA.
That's kind of to be expected. What we'll likely see throughout the next few laps is somebody will have just one little, they'll start to overheat, and then they will have just one little bad moment, which will kind of cut the train behind them off from the train in front, and then we'll probably start seeing gaps form. But this is really crucial. From this point until the end of this off stint, your tires are going to start overheating, and it's just really crucial to not push too hard and just be able to manage those overheating tires.
So, and we talked about last week, we had some drivers complaining that last week in Brazil, it was a little bit more tough than it is at other tracks to rebuild some of that ERS. And we had a complaint with one of the Red Bull drivers last night that a lot of people were driving this like a time trial sweat and just burning battery lap after lap after lap, as DRS is now enabled and the drivers can open up that rear flap on that rear wing and get a little extra straight line speed. But is COTA a track, because it's so technical, because you have a couple of hard braking areas, you can rebuild that ERS pretty quickly, or is this one where you've really got to manage it?
Managing it isn't. I mean, it's more on this track. Most people are likely going to be running more high downforce, so it's more important to maintain that DRS interval. So you want to be blowing all your battery if you have to. It can come back relatively quickly. It's not like overpowered like it is a Silverstone, but it's not too bad. It's not like a track like Canada or Mexico where you just kind of lose. You just you go down one straight and you literally use 60% of your battery. So it's relatively easy to maintain your battery even with high downforce. It's mainly just trying to maintain track position and keeping everything clean.
All right, Ian Krieger with the DRS on Hudson Pool. For some reason, I think it looks like he's trying to burn some extra fuel here. He maintains 7th gear instead of upshifting to 8th, so that was kind of interesting there from Ian. I wonder if he's happy just to sit behind Hudson and take advantage of the DRS for a couple of laps here. Hadn't really seen that tactic before. That was a new one for me. Victor
D. The positive thing that you have by sitting behind somebody in DRS, particularly in P2, is you don't have to push as hard because you can make up time with the DRS. So you can just be a little bit more cautious, a little bit more gentle on your tires through those first sector, just so you don't keep them overheated. So you can just kind of play the long game and just try to win through strategy, or just try to beat them later with DRS.
Look, Jack Pemberton has dropped out of the DRS of Jason Peltier here. Victor Diaz about overtook him there in Sector 3 early on. He's going to have the DRS advantage here. Does have a good... He's not using any battery to keep up with him, and I think he's happy also just to sit. A little move on the outside here, potentially, from Eric McNerney. Eric McNerney, side by side, wheel to wheel with Victor Diaz. Victor backs out of it and lets Eric through. Eric, a really quick driver, likes a really snappy, oversteery car, and likes a low downforce setup, and may have been able to take advantage of that there in Sector 1 as he takes a spot from Victor, who I was just pretty sure would take that spot from Jack Pemberton. So little surprise shuffle of the order there for Victor Diaz.
Yeah, what we may have seen is just somebody just having an issue with overheating tires just causes them to not be able to maintain their position. It's just so important just to just not overheat your tires, and then just recognize when those tires are overheating to know when you can't just take a corner like you normally do. It's particularly turn 8 and 9 is where the tires, particularly your right side, overheat, and if they overheat, you have to be really gentle, otherwise you just won't be able to make those corners.
Snappy dropped a couple of positions there, but now he is back up into P17, just took the spot from Alex Duarte in P18. Let's take a look here at the tires so we've got a good idea of when the stops are going to start occurring. We're 3 laps in, finishing up the lap number 4 here. So Big Mama Frank, soft tires, probably about 12 laps. Is that going to be about the max on them?
I'll be surprised if people go that long. We'll probably start seeing people go on around lap 8. One thing that we've probably been underutilizing a lot on the broadcast is our telemetry. We can actually see everyone's tire wear. So right now, Ian Krieger actually has a pretty decent, about 1 lap advantage tire wear compared to everyone else in the top 8. So that may be beneficial for him. So he may decide. I mean, he can't see everybody else's tire wear, but he may be comfortable enough to try to overcut people when they try to pit. So we'll see what happens in terms of their decision making when we get to that point.
Well, Barney Goatmere with a good overtake there on Jack Pemberton. Up into P8. He was P9, so Jack Pemberton falling down the order here. Eric McNerney dropped back behind Victor Diaz here. Not sure what happened there, but those positions swapping and swapping around. Jack and Victor, a little bit of an issue there, and Victor gets by Jack Pemberton. Jack Pemberton now overtaken by Eric McNerney. What's going on with Jack Pemberton? Doesn't appear to have any damage to the car. Just having a little bit of a rough time, and maybe exactly what you're saying, Big Mama Frank, not looking after those tires as well as he should, pushing a little bit too hard and losing some of that advantage. Able to keep it ahead of Eric McNerney for now, but we'll see what the Alpine driver, new to that Alpine machine, can do as he starts to close up that gap as Jack Pemberton goes on the inside of Victor Diaz. He and Victor are going to go side by side. Eric McNerney with a great onboard here, giving us a great look at that battle side by side. These two not afraid to go side by side. Good trust, good skill. Really good job from both the Mercedes-powered units, and Jack Pemberton comes out with the advantage there on that tight left-hander. And now as we come around through the final sector, what can they do here through 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20?
So what we're seeing in terms of if we're looking at these intervals, we're kind of seeing what we were saying before about how if the second you lose that DRS, man, that train in front of you is just gone. And without a safety car, you're likely not going to catch back up with them for the rest of the race.
We'll get through turn 1 here. We'll take a look at it. Eric McNerney's been quick through turn 1 here. What can he do? Victor Diaz quits the corner just a little bit, barely keeps it ahead, but it's going to be advantage Eric. He's going to have the inside line here, but better traction to Victor Diaz. Nice little spicy battle here from P8 back to P11. Guac does get the move done on John Ranger to move up into P16 in the AlphaTauri. So a little bit of Honda power, trying to get a little bit of comeback there. John Ranger got to be talking to Jack Pemberton and to Joel Garon right now, trying to figure out, what more can I do to get up there with those guys, because I think I can fight with them as well.
The only way for them to kind of to be able to get back in that pack is to either have a really nice undercut. The only problem with trying to undercut here is it's the same issue we have in Brazil. The people who are just going to maintain, are going to stay on track and ride these DRS trains are going to be able to lap a lot faster than you, or even equal to you, just because that DRS train is going to allow them to just kind of keep the pace up. Whereas if you're driving in clean air, you're gonna have to blow all your battery. It's just, you lose so much time on the straights when you don't have that DRS.
So we lost intervals here for just a moment, folks. They should be back here in just a little bit. Something about ghosted cars in the chat. I'd like to know more about that. I don't know who we saw that was ghosted. Somebody had a complaint about Alex's car a moment ago.
I know that Damien left the session a while back. Haven't seen him come back, and I have seen somebody drive through him. So I know Damien is for one that was ghosted at one point. I'm not sure if he still is.
I see that now. Yeah, Damien is ghosted. Snappy quite a ways behind him, but still has the advantage. No, he's actually just out of the DRS range of Damien. So very interesting to see there. Pelon also, who left the session earlier, did not retire the car. So yeah, that's going to be a big issue. Yeah, Pelon, if you're watching the broadcast, man, we need you to get back in and actually retire the car if you're not going to race it. We cannot have the AI out there racing and potentially ruining somebody else's race. That's going to be disappointing if that ends up being the case. Jack Fletcher, meanwhile, has caught up to this little pack here in the middle of Barney, Jack Pemberton, Victor, and Eric McNerney. So going to keep adding to this little DRS train. The more they fight each other, the more the guys behind have a chance to catch up, and the bigger that advantage gets for Thermo, who's fully 4 seconds ahead of Barney in P7.
Yeah, we're right about the time where starting on mediums, the ultimate strat will start to cross over and be about the same pace as these older softs. But we'll see how far Jack can get. I mean, it'll be really important for him to try to get to the front of this train as quickly as he can, or at least before everyone goes in, so that he has the better track position for when he's trying to push by himself in clean air.
That is huge. First penalty of the day goes to Peter Giordano, the Ferrari team principal, with a 3-second time penalty for track limits. And we are so early in the race, he's got to be very, very careful, because for all we know, he's sitting on a penalty and 1 warning already. And so 2 more warnings. Now you're talking about 6 seconds. Now you're all the way back into P10, P11 right now, as Jack Pemberton goes into the pits early to get off of those soft tires. Didn't have any damage, but maybe just wanted to get out of that little battle and be able to breathe for just a few minutes and go on to the medium tires here.
So we actually can see the warnings in our telemetry. It's actually working today. So we have, in terms of our leading pack right now, the top 5, we have 4 total warnings. We have 3 on Peter and just 1 on Travis. The top 3 do not have any warnings at this point.
Very interesting. So Snappy picks up a penalty as well. I may have missed that earlier, but yeah, Division 1, it tends to be one of our cleanest, but also our most competitive driver. Oh, and there, we're talking all that smack, talking about how great they are. And Eric McNerney, maybe a little rusty. Well, no, he was here last week with us in Brazil. Just picks up a 3-second time penalty as well. Yeah, Campbell, you're right. So one of the things that was happening with the ghosted cars earlier, when Jack Fletcher went through Damien, Jack drives in cockpit view. He doesn't drive in the TV cam like we're seeing right now on board with Peter Giordano. And so once you're inside that ghosted car, it can really obscure your vision and make it hard to make a decision on braking points, moves, what's going on with traffic ahead of you. So yeah, it's certainly probably really frustrating, and Jack's happy to be past that. And on those medium tires, for probably about another 15 laps here to try to finish him out on the softs, but glad to be past that car, and hopefully won't have to deal with Pelon's AI at this point either.
Yeah, hopefully these ghosted AI cars aren't going to have too much of an effect on this race. The one possibility is that when we get towards the end of the race, our leaders are going to catch up with them and potentially just kind of get some free DRS because these ghosted cars are just going to be driving so slow. And that would kind of put a big damper on our potential big finish here.
All right, just picked up Thermo going to the pits. Victor Diaz also in the pits. So we've now had 3 drivers pit to get off the softs. A little bit early, I think. Only 8 laps. But again,
when you're in that second pack, the only chance you have to catch with the leaders is to undercut and catch up with them once they pit. Because at this point, the only way they can catch up the leaders is for a safety car to come out. So they're just kind of having to try to make the gambles so they can catch them on the second stint, so they have an opportunity to kind of fight for the podium at the end.
Thermo comes out in P14 just ahead of John Ranger. Thermo is going to have a slight tire advantage here, but I don't think it's going to be massive. Pelon into the pits to get off the softs. AI looks like it put on another set of softs, so that's interesting. Hopefully that will not. Oh, really nice move there from Alex Duarte to take that spot from John Ranger up the inside there at the end of the S's. Nice move. Glad we were on board for that. Really good stuff from the McLaren driver, his teammate Chris Hannigan, all the way up into P12 through this first round of pit stops. The top 5 still a nice DRS train in over a 3-second gap from Peter Giordano to Jason Pelter. But if you're Jason Pelter, you see that 3.1 seconds, you see that penalty, and you're thinking, man, I'm in the top 5 right now. As long as I can keep this close, I got no pressure from behind as John Ranger sends it back up the inside of Alex. Alex car is actually ghosted right now. Alex PC and internet both died a few moments ago. I thought he was back on according to his engineer, but it looks like those cars are trying to make a baby Aston McLaren on stream. So folks, hide your kids' eyes while that happens, and Alex is back ahead of John Ranger.
Rebus, I believe we're watching 2 AI cars right now.
That is a very interesting. Okay, so Duncan McCamick, Travis Robinson, Jason Pelter, Peter Giordano, and Guac all into the pit. John Ranger also into the pit. Hudson Poole, Ian Krieger, Barney Goatmere, Eric McNerney, Jack Fletcher, Snappy, your top 6 decided to all stay out. So Hudson and Ian are going to be hanging out here till the very end. Let's check in with Ian. He been closing that gap up to Hudson, but keeping it smart. Got a lot of battery left. Hudson, take a look at his battery. He also has not been burning a lot of ERS. So the two of them comfortable to just kind of stay together, keep working, don't push each other too hard, and see what you can do. Extend this lead here, and hope that the undercut is not too powerful.
Yep. So like you mentioned before, Thermo, by pitting early, he was able to catch that lead group. So now he is in the DRS train with Duncan, Travis, and Peter. So he has an opportunity now to fight for the lead.
Speaking of fighting for the lead, Ian Krieger does make the overtake happen. A little bit of contact, no damage to either car. Neither driver going to be real happy about that. Both will probably be pointing fingers at the other, saying, hey, if you'd have gave me room, like, I didn't need to give you room because I didn't know you were there. So very interesting. But Ian does take over the lead of the race in a spot where you normally don't see an overtake happen. But it seems like he's just been kind of biding his time. So we'll see if he comes in here at the end of the 10th lap on these soft tires. It is both of them into the pits. So temporary lead of the race will go to Barney Goatmere, unless he decides to come in as well. So we'll check in with the Williams driver as he comes around turn 19, turn 20. He is going into the pits. So Jack Fletcher inherits the lead of the race on the medium tires. The alternate strategy, moving Jack Fletcher up temporarily into the lead as Ian and Hudson have now fitted their tires onto the mediums and pulling out Snappy into P2. Ian comes out P3 ahead. Duncan McCamick actually comes out ahead in P3. He had pitted the lap before the undercut, working for Duncan McCamick. So right now, Duncan McCamick is your leader of the race, ahead of Ian Krieger, Travis Robinson, and his own teammate, Hudson Poole. Hudson, the big loser on that, drops all the way down to P6 and is 4/10 back from Peter Giordano. So what happened there with Hudson Poole?
When you have both your drivers, in a DRS train together, you have to make a decision where somebody's going to lose out in terms of the potential undercut. Somebody, because they can't pit at the same time. If they both pit, then one of them's just going to get completely thrown out of the race. So the way they did it here, they decided to send Duncan in, and Hudson decided, I'll just want that one lap fresher tires. Maybe I can fight everyone else in front towards the end of the race here. So we'll see what happens.
Duncan McCamick getting close to getting the DRS from Snappy. He's 1.2 back. Let's see if he can make that happen. Travis Robinson takes the spot from Ian Krieger on the back straight into the really twisty technical section here. Travis did stop Oh no, they're on the exact same tire strat here. So Travis just getting that little bit of extra grip to keep ahead of the two young guns of Ian Kreger and Hudson Poole. So down towards the end here, who can keep their tires in good enough shape? Travis Robinson right now will not have the DRS on Duncan McCamick, but Duncan, as we come down towards the main straight, is going to have DRS on Snappy. Snappy comes into the pits, but it won't matter. Duncan still gets the DRS because he was within 1 second through the detection zone. So Duncan has a huge advantage here. Travis is going to be at a disadvantage to Ian Kreger. And let's take a look at those guys back there. Ian does stay behind Travis here through a turn 1, and they're all going to be hunting down Duncan McCamick, who has a huge 1.3 second gap at this moment as Snappy comes out on a set of medium tires, drops from P2 of the race down to P15.
Yeah, big thing though, while you're speaking, Hudson actually picked up a 3-second penalty. I think he had all 3 of those warnings on that in-lap and out-lap, so that's gonna come into play really big at the end of this race. And Hudson gets another warning. He's at 4 now.
Not ideal, and we saw in Division 2, you can actually pick up a track limits warning as you go into the pits. If you get your car all the way over to the left and you get your tire across that white line on the pit entry on the left side, you can actually pick up a track warning and get a penalty there. We saw that happen to one of the Aston Martin drivers last night, and it was a little strange place to pick up a track warning and get a penalty.
Yeah, if you don't stay inside those white lines, then the game will definitely penalize you for that. I think that kind of works on every single track. I mean, there are some tracks like Monaco that don't have white lines, but for the most part, if you do cross those white lines, you will get track limit penalties.
Nice little side-by-side action for Hudson Poole and Ian Kreger, those two battling it out. And if you're Travis Robinson, you want to see that behind you. You want to see those two jockeying for position, because that gives you a little bit of chance to run away, maybe extend this gap and start catching up to Duncan McCamick. But Duncan McCamick, like we talked about earlier in the Red Bull, no DRS currently with a really high downforce setting. Travis Robinson runs wide out of the final turn. Travis Robinson must be running a high downforce setting as well, because he doesn't seem to be closing that gap up to Duncan currently. And Hudson Poole, absolute send down the inside, had to get a little bit heavy on the brakes around the outside of Ian Kreger, and these two are going wheel to wheel into the S's, and this will most likely end in heartache unless Ian does the smart thing and backs out, and that invites his teammate Peter Giordano back into the party. Thermo two tenths back from them, so really good fighting here, but you guys got to be careful because you're letting Duncan run away with this and not making any ground here on Travis Robinson either.
Yeah, man, going through that middle sector side by side is always just a butt clincher, man. Because if someone doesn't back out, someone's gonna wind up flying over those sausage curves, and the sausage curves through the S's on this track will just send you straight to Mars. So it's really scary if you're side by side with somebody and just no one is just refusing to back out.
Check in with Victor Diaz back in P11. He's slowly catching up to Jack Pemberton here. Has a 1-lap tire advantage. It's not going to be really significant until maybe towards the end of the race. You get that 1 lap where your tires are just a little more grippy and you've been able to follow behind, save some ERS. You don't have to push quite as hard as Eric McNerney takes a spot from Barney Goatmere in P12 and P13. So, yeah, Duncan has that lead almost up to 2 seconds. So right now it's looking like I don't want to jinx him, but it's looking like a Duncan McCamick win here at the Circuit of Americas.
Well, we've seen at least one safety car in every single race in this division, and we still have the very small chance of rain. And so, knowing Duncan, he's not the greatest driver in the rain, but he can make it happen. He did win at Imola last season, but we are looking, I think, about 19% chance of rain through the rest of the race. So that could still also come into play. But at the same time, I mean, Jack Fletcher actually staying out as long as he did gave Duncan a little bit of DRS to just kind of extend that lead for him. So that was a really nice play from the Hondas there.
So Team Honda loves to work together. There is no team orders there, but Jack Fletcher is probably going to do his boy Duncan a huge favor here and make that card super wide. He's going to play that Checo role right now. Even though they're on different teams, they are under the same Honda umbrella. So Jack Fletcher can make Duncan McCamick a very happy man tonight. And I think Duncan, the way things are going, is going to be pretty pleased the way this is all going down. Hudson Poole still in front of Ian Kreger for the time being. Travis Robinson, let's check in with him, has been burning a lot of battery to try to keep up with it, and there is the move. There's Hudson Poole down the inside. Travis Robinson late on the brakes, trying to keep Ian from coming through as well. It does defend well from Ian. Jack Pemberton, Chris Hannigan swap spots. Snappy picks up another time penalty, and this is the thing we like about COTA. This is the the thing we like about the U.S. Grand Prix. Next season, we'll be adding in the Miami Grand Prix, so we'll have 2 American tracks, but always good racing here at COTA. We always have a really good time, and like you said, Big Mama Frank, it looks like it's getting a little more overcast, a little bit darker sky. Don't know if that means it's gonna rain, but it would certainly change things up here.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what Jeff would actually be saying right now, because Jeff will always tell you if rain's coming at some point. So he's kind of a psychic in that way. But Hudson actually caught up to Jack now. So now we have a DRS train with Jack kind of unfortunately being the one on the alternate strat. I mean, a safety car would help him here, but it is definitely kind of hurting Duncan now at this point, since Jack was not able to stay in DRS. Now he's kind of towing the people behind. But it potentially could help Hudson if Hudson can break the toe of Ian. So let's see how this goes.
Well, the toe of Ian was the toe of Travis Robinson. Travis lost that spot to Ian Kreger, so that's 2 spots lost for Travis. And Travis has to do right now is to build that battery back up. He had drained quite a lot of it, and not ideal when you're in a battle like this. But yeah, he went from 15% battery at the end of last lap to almost 37% here. So he's going to have to just play it smart, take care of those tires and take care of that battery. Immediately on the battery, though, to not lose Ian ahead. Ian about 5/10 ahead right now. And it looks like Hudson Poole has made the overtake on Jack Fletcher. So now Jack's to do is get to hold up those Ferrari boys. And right now it's looking like a Red Bull 1-2 for Duncan McCamick and Hudson Poole.
Well, the issue for Hudson, he's sitting on 5 warnings right now. So he has the potential to have 6 seconds of penalties at the end of this race. So he has a long way to go to not get any more warnings. Also, Jack is sitting on 2 warnings. Ian is at 0. Travis is on 2. So if Hudson gets another penalty, then no matter where he finishes, those guys are going to be close enough to be able to overtake him with penalties alone.
Oh, and Travis Robinson picks up a 3-second time penalty. That is not ideal for the Canadian driver. We'll say he didn't have a lot of time to practice this week, didn't really get his setup worked out until this morning. So Travis not coming in tonight with high expectations beyond what his talent allows. Ian Kreger takes a spot from Jack Fletcher. Well, just momentarily there, Jack did a good job defending, but Ian just on the better tire strategy had the advantage of the faster car, probably a lower downforce setup in that Ferrari, and overall, Ian tends to be a little bit quicker driver than Jack.
Yeah, it's going to be really tricky. I mean, it's really tricky to defend, particularly into that corner. I mean, because if you don't have the perfect exit out of turn 1, then you're just kind of doomed to people that are on fresher tires. Now, what's I think going to be really, really important for Red Bull here is for Hudson to get into that DRS of Duncan, and then they just need to try to pull away from the rest of the pack if they want to have any hope of Hudson being able to sit on the podium at the end of this race.
Looking at John Ranger back here, I can't tell if he's ghosted or not, but he is all up inside that Haas. See if we can get some confirmation from the Aston Martin garage. His car looks a lot more solid than the Haas, but it's just really awkward to watch a couple of ghost cars going at it. So we'll jump back. Let's check in with Chris Hannigan. The man, the myth, the legend, PBJ, running up in P11, trying to stretch those medium tires out as long as he can. He and Jack Fletcher both doing a good job of trying to make them last here. We're just over the halfway point in the race, and so probably about another 6 laps on those tires, and then try to wear out some softs at the end and make a couple spots on some good strategy.
So here we go. We have Hudson in the DRS of Duncan, and we have Ian outside the DRS of Hudson. So if Red Bull can do this, if Red Bull do this correctly, when they inevitably swap, they don't lose time, then they have the potential of actually creating a gap between them and Ian.
Travis finally gets around the AlphaTauri of Jack Fletcher, but he's already at 1.6 seconds back behind Ian. Also has that penalty. So does Peter Giordano. So does Thermo. So does Jason Pelter. Jack Pemberton, the only one here in the top 10 besides Duncan and Ian without a penalty. So potential for him as Thermo and Peter Giordano having a little back and forth. Peter comes out on the better of it. Thermo looks like he ran a little bit wide. Oh, fastest lap to Alex Duarte. Really nice middle of the session lap for Alex down in P19. Let's actually check in. This actually happened once in season 2, folks. Alex Duarte, this is before we fixed our AI levels. Alex actually disconnected at Brazil in season 2 and set the fastest lap as AI. And so that was a learning moment for the admins and for those racing in the league that had to figure things out. So we had to go back and watch the broadcast and see who held the fastest lap previous to that, because you can't let an AI car have the fastest lap when it's actually faster than the driver driving.
Yeah, it's definitely probably why you guys also have the AI level set so low so that they're not competing with people when people aren't here. It'd be
Right.
really bizarre if you had the AI just running people off the road, doing AI things just because somebody had a bad, just a little hiccup in their internet.
All right, Jack Fletcher's had enough. He is into the pits, going to get off those medium tires. Advantage Thermo and Jason Pelter. See if Jack Fletcher can take advantage of that as well. He does as well. So Jack Fletcher, Victor Diaz, and possibly all the way down to Barney Goatme are going to take those spots from Jack Fletcher. Let's check in with Barney, see where he's at. Barney's going to get that spot as well. Jack Fletcher is moving. Is he going to come out ahead of his teammate Guac? Let's see who wins the race off pit road. Guac actually does take the spot. So Jack Fletcher going to put in 11 laps on those soft tires. He is the first one on the soft tires. No, Chris Hannigan also going in. So Jack and Chris Hannigan, really good teammates in ACC, ran the Bentley just as something to do, something a little bit different. And those guys, great racers. You put them in anything, ACC, iRacing, F1, they can drive it all. They're just good, solid dudes and good, solid racers.
Okay, so we got to keep an eye on that delta between Hudson and Ian. 3 seconds for Hudson. Remember, 5 warnings, so he could potentially get another 3-second penalty. But right now, as long as they keep that delta up, I mean, Ian's doing a really good job maintaining pace there. It's so hard to try to keep up with people in DRS in front of you. But he's doing a really good job of maintaining that delta.
So, and here's the quandary if you're Duncan McCamick. You are a racer first, and you want to win, but you are also the team principal for Honda. This is also your teammate who won last week. Your teammate who is generally, at most tracks, faster than you and has a penalty. So do you let him go, or do you fight him all the way as Hudson just goes up the inside of Duncan McCamick and answers the question that nobody but me was asking? And so Hudson Poole is going to try to get away. And Duncan McCamick going to try to stay ahead of Ian, but also hold him up just enough that Hudson can get away with this win, I would guess.
No, not in this. Their goal here is to keep swapping here on DRS straights. Oh, there it is. Oh man, that's so. It's going to be, I think, almost impossible to keep Ian to create that delta from Ian. Now, 6 seconds is just way too much time. But the best thing that he can do is continue to provide a tow for Duncan. They're still their best strategy here is to continue swapping through the DRS. Just have one drain battery, and then once that battery's drained, swap back around, and have the other one drain their battery while they lead. But right now, Ian is doing a really good job. He keeps closing this gap. I mean, I think they were a little bit slow in the swap at the beginning of this lap, so Ian was able to gain a little bit of time. But at this point, Hudson is just here to help Duncan win this race.
Well, and that is essentially podium over for Hudson. So now it's going to be a matter of Ian, Travis, Thermo, Peter. What did they do? Ian, the only one without a penalty, so you can effectively say Duncan McCamick 1, Ian Krager 2, and then Travis, Thermo, and Peter have to be careful not to pick up another penalty. And if Travis can keep it ahead of everyone else, it is a Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes 1, 2, 3.
Well, the positive thing for Hudson is after Ian, everyone, the following 4 have 3 seconds. So if Hudson can maintain a more than 3 second gap to Travis, he will actually finish on the podium. So like right now, if the race ended, he would be 3rd and Ian would be 2nd.
Gotcha. Okay. Math's hard. Thank you. I'm glad you're better at it than me. So Travis has got to get a move on here, but he's got to keep an eye out. Thermo's taking that spot from Peter Giordano behind. Jack Fletcher on the new softs goes 34 flat with the fastest lap. Currently in P11, moves up to P10. So right now, AlphaTauri would get to keep that point. A little bit for those of you. And Chris Hannigan goes a little bit faster and says, anything you can do, I can do better. The way we do points around here, folks, in case you are new to Zoom Racing League, is if you finish the race, all of our top 20 gets points. It is a descending scale that starting at P11 down drops by 1 point. There's a bigger gap for the top guys to get better points, but we do award fastest lap point, but only if you're inside the top 10. So if right now Chris Hannigan holds on to that in P14 and cannot improve his lot, that point gets lost to the ether and does not come back.
Yeah, now we're seeing kind of the gap kind of build between the Red Bulls and Ian. So and we're still looking good for a Hudson podium, but the potential of a P2 is going to be really challenging. The only way it happens is if Ian picks up a penalty or makes a mistake. And at this point, he's still at 0 warnings, as is Duncan.
Peter Giordano has lost the advantage of the DRS to Thermo, so he is going to have to be happy with P6 and defend against the Gator. Jason Pelter, both of them driving Ferrari-powered machines, so Thermo looking to put in some work here. Thermo did a lot of talking in the last week about what he was going to be able to do. Had an okay result, had a good, pretty good result until he ran out of fuel in Brazil in Division 2. Had an okay result last night and looking to put his money where his mouth is here as he's slowly closing up the gap to Travis Robinson within 3/10 there for just a moment. A little later on the brakes, held him just a little bit longer, and Travis able to stay ahead. But the next DRS zone could prove fatal for Travis Robinson's podium hopes.
Kind of one thing we're kind of noticing here is Duncan's starting to fall back in terms of that first sector pace. So if he falls out of DRS range, then Ian has that really good an opportunity to be able to race versus someone with clean air and just be able to just, you know, interval or lap by lap, just be a little bit quicker and he can catch him.
And so if you're Duncan McCamick and you're talking to Hudson Poole, are you telling him just run off, just go? Or are you saying like, hey man, let me stay just close enough to you. I've got to just stay in the DRS the whole time. I know you can go faster, but we've got to work together here.
Yeah, that's absolutely what he's doing. I'm sure Hudson recognizes the same thing with the two warnings or the 2 track limit penalties. He knows that his chances of winning this race are pretty much gone. So he knows that, and Duncan will definitely be in his ear since they're in Discord together, they're talking. He will definitely be telling him that your job here is just to help me win this race.
Peter now almost 2 seconds behind Thermo. Thermo 6/10 behind Travis Robinson. Travis doing a good job of keeping that car ahead of him right now. Travis, let's check the battery here. Travis, slight battery advantage despite Thermo behind having the DRS. So Travis doing a good job of keeping him at bay. Within that 3 seconds of Ian, but still has got to catch up a little bit more time here if he hopes to leave today with a podium. Barney picks up a 3-second time penalty all the way down in P12 as he's trying to put in the work on Eric McNerney.
I think unfortunately for Travis, I think his potential for a podium is over at this point. I think he's just too far back, and Ian, the gap between him and Ian is just going to keep growing. Particularly because the issue that Travis has is Thermo doesn't have the pace to pass him, and so he's basically just going to have to keep leading Thermo, trying to defend from him, while he's just losing time because Thermo's not doing anything to help him catch the leaders. But like we mentioned before, Thermo's only in this position because he went for the undercut. He was so far behind from the leading pack that by pitting early and just being able to get into DRS of one of them, he's put himself in a much better position than he was earlier. So hats off to Thermo for that strategy call there.
Yep, definitely good stuff. Jordan Angus all the way down in P17 looks to be trying to make a move here on Snappy. Jordan Angus, unfortunately, at the very beginning of the race, suffering that damage, but his Alpine teammate ahead of him, I think if you're Freddie Raz, I'm sorry, this is Williams on Alpine. I'll get it straight here in just a moment, folks. Williams, one of your, not really in the same fight with Alpine as far as the constructors, but there's a lot of pride at stake here. If you're a D1 driver and you see this reserve driver in front of you for Alpine, you want to get ahead of them. Damien looks like he's finally rejoined the session, wondering if what is going on right now. Tech Speedy in the chat says these are the 2 greatest drivers I've ever witnessed. That's really nice of him to say about Travis and Victor Diaz. I didn't know he was such a Mercedes fan. That's really sweet of you. Thank you, Ethan. Which Jordan gets the move done around Snappy and looks to put in a little bit of work here to try to catch up to Alex Duarte. 7 seconds over the next 5.5 laps as borderline insurmountable. We do know that Jordan is rapid, and that's why he is in D1.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, yeah, it's so hard to catch and make up time on this track when everyone's just kind of spaced into these DRS trains. Driving in clean air is really difficult because, like we said before, I think the preferred strategy here in terms of setup is the high downforce, which can kind of stink in clean air because when you're on the back straight without battery, you just don't even get to 8th gear. So you can lose a lot of time just by not having DRS, but at the same time, you just have to have that low downforce just to maintain those DRS trains. So it's kind of a weird trade-off, and if you're in clean air, it kind of stinks for you.
Now, speaking of trade-off, P4 just swapped Thermo over to Travis Robinson. Checking with Victor Diaz, see if he can do anything here on Jack Pemberton. A little late to the passing zone here, but Victor Diaz still sat behind him with a lot of battery ready to attack. fully charged on the battery. Let's check in with Jack Pemberton's battery. Jack's been using a little bit of battery, knows that Victor's coming, but Thermo up into P4 right now, and Travis Robinson got to do a little bit of recovery here on the Barbadian driver.
Yeah, Thermo's just kind of gapping Travis right now. He's so close to breaking out of that DRS, but Travis is back in, and he's using that DRS to kind of catch back up.
So Alex and Barney down in P14, P15, they are Division 3 teammates in Mercedes. So the two of them don't want to be doing too much fighting, don't want to start any bad blood between the teammates. But right now, it's every man for themselves. As one of them is in the Williams, one of them in the McLaren. PBJ up into P13 on those softs. Got a yellow in Sector 3. Looks like Boney Goatmere's had another moment. Does he have damage? He does. He is broken off. It looks like the end plate on the right side of that car. The left side, folks, on the driver's side of the car, and he is into the pits. And that is unfortunate for the Williams driver, as he's going to drop down into the AI driver area of this race, and it's effectively over for him at this point.
Yeah, it is. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is we're kind of getting close. We're getting really close for Hudson to kind of catch up with Damien here. I think Damien is still ghosted, just about a sector behind Damien's AI car. So if he catches him and gets DRS from at least just one lap from that AI, it could be a significant change in terms of that delta between them and Ian. So there's a possibility of that might affect the end of this race.
Alternate strategy working out for Jack Fletcher here, as now he is caught up to the pack of Jack Pemberton and Victor Diaz. So Victor Diaz smack in the middle of a Jack sandwich. Jack Fletcher with the advantage on the tires, looking to pick up both these spots and move that AlphaTauri up into P8. His teammate Guak down in P12 on the same strategy, but he's got Chris Hannigan slowly catching up to him. Don't know if there's enough time for Hannigan to make up another spot. The McLaren's sitting in 13th and 14th.
It looks like Hudson's kind of gapping Duncan here a little bit. I'm sure he'll lift off to give Duncan that DRS.
Only a 3-second advantage over Ian Krager, though, so I don't think they're too worried about it here with 3.5 laps remaining. But yeah, you gotta maybe.
The thing here is, though, the gap is big enough to where all it takes is just one tiny mistake, just one little bit of oversteer, one little bit of just loss of control by Ian, and suddenly Hudson is back in P2 in terms of the penalty delta. So it's still important for Hudson to keep that pace up, even if Duncan starts falling back.
Travis Robinson had saved up a bunch of battery earlier. It looks like he's burning through a lot of it now, trying to stay on the back of Thermo. He's got to keep it close here. If he wants to have a chance at P4, I think the podium is now out of the question. That gap is enormous. We have 4 seconds to Ian, and then another 3.8 seconds to Thermo. Snappy picks up a 3-second time penalty. Not going to really make a big difference here in the race. He's down in P16, and we believe everyone behind him except Barney Goatmere is currently disconnected and running his AI. No, actually, John Ranger is connected. He is running with a balanced default setup, so that's why he's down in P17.
That's right.
Jack Fletcher does get the move on Jack Pemberton and Victor Diaz. We missed it, folks. That is my fault. I am so sorry. So Jack Fletcher up into P8 with a great move around the outside of Jack Pemberton. So he is now sitting pretty. It actually looks like Victor ghosted there for a moment. Victor is ghosted. I don't know if he disconnected. I didn't see a disconnection. May have been something where he had to answer a phone or something and tab out for a moment, but Victor Diaz loses out on that deal, loses a little bit of time to Jack Pemberton, but also loses a spot to Jack Fletcher, who moved up too, and now has this set remix on Jason Pelter in P7.
You know, that delta was kind of climbing a bit. I mean, it's getting close. I don't know if Hudson and Duncan can gap Ian by 1 second over the next 2.5 laps, or per lap over the next 2 laps, but it's possible. I mean, we lost our intervals there. We'll probably get them back in a second. But I'm really curious to see how big that gap is now.
Barney Goatmere goes on to a fresh set of softs. Right now, currently, Chris Hannigan has the fastest lap. Even if Barney were to take it right now, it doesn't come into play. It doesn't help or hurt anyone. So unless magically Chris Hannigan gets into that top 10, the fastest lap point isn't going to be a decider in this race. Isn't going to play into the Constructors or Drivers Championships at all. So hopefully get our intervals back soon and say, there goes Barney, fastest lap. I knew he was going to go for it, but again, it's not going to play into anything here. It's not going to get anybody a point that's worth mentioning unless about 9 drivers in front of him suddenly bin it. And speaking of which, in Sector 3, we have... Is that Jason Pelter off? It is Jason Pelter. Jason Pelter dropping spots. What happened to the Gator? He is in the gravel. Does he have damage? He does not. Looks like he just went a little bit wide. Lost control of the car there through that quick right-hander and drops several spots there. Victor Diaz, Jack Fletcher, Jack Pemberton all say thank you very much, Gator. Not ideal if you are the Alfa Romeo team principal. Donnie Three Putts, Mr. Buffalo Trace, has got to be absolutely pulling his hair out right now as Damien's down in P17 as a ghost car. Jason Pelter has an absolute disaster there. Drops down to P10. Still going to get good points tonight, but had a P7 in the bag.
Back towards the front, Ian has kind of cut down that gap a little bit. I think he just decided to start blowing his battery to push to make sure Hudson cannot extend that lead to 6 seconds. It's at 4.8 now. And Hudson is at 8 warnings now, so it's probably it for him. He probably won't be able to try to push any harder than he is. Otherwise, he just kind of cements his place. He could just lose even more time here to everyone else. So,
well, speaking of losing time, folks, we are losing time for you to like and subscribe and comment and let us know. Can Hudson Poole hang on for the win here as he begins the ultimate lap, the penultimate lap, ending as he comes around through turn 20 down the main straight? Going to be headed up for this big elevation change up to P1. Hudson Poole, Duncan McCamick, Ian Kreger, Thermo, Travis Robinson, Peter Giordano, Jack Fletcher, Jack Pemberton, Victor Diaz, Eric McNerney, your top 10 as it stands right now as we start the final lap. Almost nobody here except maybe Jason Pelter within the DRS zone, DRS range where they can make an overtake happen. John Ranger within 1/10 of John Pelon, who is a ghost car. I think it's a couple of ghost cars battling out 8 seconds ahead of Barney Goatmere. Jason Pelter, can he make anything happen here? It looks like it's going to be a Red Bull 1-2 with a Ferrari power in P3 and P4.
Not quite, because Ian still has 7/10. They have to create a 7/10 gap, or actually do faster than 7. Excuse me. They have to beat Ian on this lap by almost 7/10 just to get that interval up. So he's still riding P2 right now, and I don't think they're going to be able to make up that much time just in the last half of the lap.
Travis Robinson has an off. Oh dear, Travis Robinson loses the spot to Peter Giordano. He was going to have the DRS. He still gets to use the DRS. He was going to have the DRS on Thermo, and that is an absolute disaster for the Mercedes driver as Peter Giordano gets through on a rare, I'm telling you folks, rare mistake from Travis Robinson. Drops him down. He was in P4 for a long time, was in P5, had a chance to get back up to P4. Travis Robinson is dropped down to P6. Absolute disaster as he sits P6 and his teammate P9. His team boss is probably going to ask what the hell happened. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. What the hell happened? A little bit of wheel spin, went off track. Just a crazy end of the race here as Hudson Poole comes across the line at P1, but Duncan McCamick is your race winner. Ian Kreger into P2 in the Ferrari. Hudson Poole has to settle for P3. Thermo, the Barbadian driver, in P4. Peter Giordano at the last minute pulls out a P5. Travis Robinson in P7. Jack Fletcher, Mr. Reliable, up into P7. Jack Pemberton, he said he had something for us, folks, and he did. That Aston Martin is in P8. Victor Diaz, P9. The Gator, Jason Pelter, into P10. Logic uses every bit of it to get himself into P11 in the Alpine. Welcome back to Division 1, sir. But Guac on penalties jumps up to P10, pushes Gator and Logic down. Chris Hannigan into P12. Eric McNerney drops all the way down to 13th. Jordan Angus, P14, Alex Duarte, P15, Snappy Damien, John Pelon, John Ranger, and Sunset Barney Goatmere down in P20, all by his lonesome at the end. So a good showing from Red Bull, good showing for Ferrari. Big surprise for Haas. You know, Flossie is super happy right now with a P4 from Thermo in that reserve role. Jack Fletcher, great drive. Travis Robinson, little bit of a mistake. Still a top 10, still good points. Victor Diaz had just a fine race, very quiet. Guac with a very impressive reserve roll. P10 for AlphaTauri. And that's it, folks. That is the end of the race. Big Mama Frank, I'm sure you're happy. Red Bull Garage going to be real happy. You got 4 cars in the top 10, all Honda power. Pretty good weekend.
Yeah, really good weekend. I mean, Guac had that rough opening lap, was able to finish, squeak out P10 right at the end. So nice recovery for him. Jack with a really nice showing with the alternate strat there, but just kind of shows like when those gaps start showing between these DRS trains, how hard it is to kind of make up positions at the end of the race. And man, we had what was Ian was like 3 or 4 tenths away from being in third. So it's really close. But Hudson was just a little too sloppy this race to be able to maintain that gap.
Yep, disappointing if you're in the Mercedes, McLaren, or Aston Martin garages for the most part. Good job by Jack Pemberton to score some good points there for the Canadian goaltender, number 29. But yeah, today is all about a Red Bull and Ferrari. Duncan McCamick and Peter Giordano got to be super happy, not only with their own results, but their picks. And yeah, it was a good race. It's always entertaining here at COTA. We can get some moments of just sort of, just people trundling around, following one another. Really only had a couple of drivers end up with wing damage significant enough to change. But mostly good, clean racing. Didn't see anything too crazy. Some good overtakes. And we'll get some interviews here in just a moment. I think Duncan is probably going to be super annoying in this interview. I think he's going to be. But, if I have to choose between Duncan and Ian, I got to talk to both tonight, don't I?
Perfect night for you, man.
Oh yeah, I'm super happy. So that's your top 10. That's your race over. We'll get started on some of these interviews in just a moment. Looks like we already have Duncan McCamick in the waiting room. We're waiting on Hudson Hudson is not actually going to be able to talk to us. So in his stead, we are going to go ahead and talk to the greatest engineer in Red Bull history and the team principal. We're not going to talk to you yet as a driver yet, Duncan McCamick, but Hudson Poole, really good race, really good recovery, really good teamwork at the end. We'll start with you, Cole. I'm going to assume that all of that was down to your engineering prowess tonight.
Absolutely. These guys were lost monkeys last night. They're like, Cole, what do we do? What do we do? I was here to save the day. I'm actually playing a league game in the middle of it. It was so easy.
Wow, so that's those are big words. So, Cole, it's they're very lucky to have you. Where would Red Bull be right now if you were not part of this team?
Honestly, Duncan's lucky to have me. We would be in the dumpster. That's just about it, man.
Well, now we have also your unlovely assistant here, Ethan Patel. I assume you were also helping with the engineering strategy tonight. Was it just a matter of implementing Cole's strategy and making it work tonight?
No. So I actually came up with my own plans that actually worked out.
No,
I
he's
just want to say. The pit stop strategy, I think that kind of really worked into our benefit. Of course, having the AlphaTauri there, but I think we executed that perfectly. I kind of thought of the idea on the spot, asked Duncan if it would work, and he said yeah, so we went with it. And I wasn't expecting people to box that early, but I guess lap 8, lap 9, the tires were falling off, so.
I guess I'll let you take credit for that.
All right, so good result for the Honda Powers, 4 of the top 10 cars. Usually Ian is the most annoying person I talk to. I don't see him in the waiting room, so we will just let Duncan McCamick have it. I'm going to take my headphones off because I think he's going to be absolutely insufferable. Congratulations on the win. Congratulations, Mr. Team Principal. Congratulations, Mr. Honda, yada, yada, yada. Talk us through your race there, Duncan.
No, first of all, I just want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, and Happy Mother's Day to my wife, mother of my beautiful 3 children. So shout out to her. Like I said, can't be doing these Sunday nights without her. And then after that, I want to give a shout out to my teammate Hudson. Couldn't have done it without him pulling me along the way. He definitely had faster pace than me, but he just got caught up with some track limits. And then shout out to Jack Fletcher for parking the bus. He helped us out, got Ian off the DRS train, so he had a little less pressure. But yeah, Hudson, he couldn't do an interview because he had hockey that he had to leave for right after the race. But he was very thrilled about our 1-3 as well.
Yeah, I'm sure he was.
How much in that race? Once you kind of let Hudson pass for the first time, how much did you have to kind of rein him in so he didn't just run off in front of you? Because I saw you were kind of losing time to him towards the end of the race.
Yeah, there were like 4 or 5 laps where I was trying to like get back to him. I mean, even though we're teammates, we're definitely still competitors, and I know Hudson can be like really fast, and I don't want to lose a DRS on him and then hit him necessarily get the win. I still want to win. I told him that mid race too. I was like, hey, if this comes down to the end, we're still racing for the win. So I don't know. I keep telling everyone this, but I still am aspiring to be that number 1 Red Bull driver seat, even though Hudson's super fast. But he pushes me every week, and yeah, I'm excited to see where we end up in comparison to each other at the end of the season.
Yeah, it was a really fun race from our perspective. I think this is honestly, I know drivers really love Red Bull Ring. People hate on Canada. They tend to kind of like Bahrain. We have some people that really love Monaco, but I think all of our best racing seems to come at COTA right now. It's just a fun track, has a little bit of everything, and it's really demanding.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's there's a variety of different setups you can make work here too. Different strategies as well. I've seen the two-stop work. I've seen hard tires work. I've seen high downforce work. I've seen low downforce work, and we just put together something this week that worked for us, and it was a lot of fun to drive. Shout out to Big Mama Frake for putting together a good setup for us, and Eruption. They kind of put the setup together for me and Hudson, and you see where the Red Bull dominance came from.
Yeah, so it's been a dominant Red Bull weekend across all divisions. You guys did really well. Had a couple of little slip ups, little bad times, but yeah, a lot of Honda power did really good. I want to do something a little bit different. One of the guys that helped come up with a lot of your strategies did a lot of great engineering for Red Bull. It's actually his birthday today, and Joel Goron is here with us. And I think we've only done this once before in Zoom Racing League. We've only ever sung to one other person. It was during the 24 hours of Nürburgring. But I think right now is an appropriate time in a 3, a 2, a 1. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Joel. Happy birthday to you. All right, Joel's here with us. Happy birthday, brother. We're really glad to have you here, man. Yeah, that's you can make sure you save this part of the broadcast, and you can make it an NFT, and you own it now, and somebody will buy it from you one day.
Really, at this point of the broadcast, I think that we're hoping that no one's watching.
Yeah, exactly.
That was horrendous.
All right.
My singing was beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and with that, we will say goodbye to the Honda gang, and we will get on with the most annoying part of the interview. The Ferrari kid, the kid that duped me when it came to the draft, ended up with his teammate and team principal, Peter Giordano. The Cape Cod kid and Boat Boy ends up in P2. Ian Krager, tell us about the race from your perspective.
Yeah, it was pretty long. It was tough. Trying to stay in that six seconds of Hudson.
So yeah, who'd you have in?
Red Bulls,
Go ahead.
both Red Bulls were rapid.
Yeah, they had a lot of pace. And what's interesting, and you don't have to give away all the secrets here, but they were running a really high downforce setup. And I assume, the way that you like to drive, you prefer a slightly lower downforce, a little more twitchy car. And so was Ferrari running a higher downforce, medium downforce setup for this track? And were you banking on the speed on the straights, or were you really counting on the cornering?
In qualifying, I had a higher downforce in the race, so I went, I think, a couple of clicks down in the race to get that extra straight line speed.
Well, it seemed to work out pretty well, and you did manage that gap well. Jack Fletcher seemed like he played a little bit of a part in that. Did it feel like he was holding you up there and helping out the Red Bulls?
Yeah, you probably had me out for maybe second half.
That is really frustrating, but still, hey man, it's a P2. Your team principal and teammate ended up in P5, so it's a pretty decent weekend for Ferrari. So can't complain too much, right?
Yeah.
All right, Ian. Well, good luck, and thanks for stopping by. And we will see more podiums going forward from you. Correct?
Yep.
Attaboy. I'll talk to you later. All right, so here's the fun part of the weekend is where I promise stuff and then I don't come through on it, Big Mama Frank. We have in the waiting room right now Alex Duarte, Barney Goatmere, and Freddie Rozelle. But I want to take just a moment here and talk to one of my favorite guys in the league, Donnie Three Putts, Mr. Buffalo Trace, the Alfa Romeo team principal. He also does our broadcasts along with Campbell Lowry Hart, Mr. OG for Division 2. But pretty good weekend from Alfa Romeo. You guys have kind of turned the corner. And I just want to get your thoughts on your overall weekend as Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, really happy with kind of our performance throughout the divisions. I think really, aside from maybe a little hiccup in D2, we had strong reserve performance in D3 along with standard performance. I think D4 was able to get a little help there, and it's kind of a crapshoot. But I gotta talk about my D1 guys for a little bit. Both of them to Q3 today. Right, and if you told me that Jason was going to start P8 and have a spin and still finish P11, I think I'd take that all day.
That's huge.
And Damien actually, with a little bit of recovery, kind of ran out of power, was able to rejoin and finish ahead of some rival drivers that we're competing against. So, a really good day for us here.
Awesome. Well, it's good to see some of the teams that are considered to be down the order, maybe as not as glamorous, getting that shine. And you've got two great drivers in D1. I mean, we talked about it all last year, especially towards the end of the year, starting around Paul Ricard. You started seeing Damien and Jason just fighting to the front. They're just good quality drivers. They're consistent. They're a lot like a Jack Fletcher. You always kind of know where they're going to fall, and then every now and then they surprise you and jump ahead of that. But rarely do they fall below where you think they're going to be. So yeah, I think they did really well, and you did a good job picking them.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, Buffalo, appreciate it. All right, that's going to do it for us. Big Mama Frank, any surprises, any closing thoughts here?
I'm surprised by the amount of warnings that Hudson had. 8 warnings at the end of the race, 6 seconds of penalties. But I was really impressed with Ian being able to maintain that penalty delta in the clean air for that long. So it's a really impressive race from him.
Yeah, he was one away from losing out on a podium, so he did a good job of keeping it just within the limits of the track. You gotta, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Don't know why he joined. Yeah, Barney Goatmere did have the fastest lap of the race and beat out all the D1 drivers as far as the fastest lap, but he wasn't P20, so don't really know what that counts for. But Barney wanted to make sure it was mentioned. So good race from me. Next week, I believe we are at Spa. A little bit longer lap time, a little more opportunity for mistakes. A track where I find, Big Mama Frank, regardless of the sim, that drivers are overconfident in their ability and knowledge of the track because they think it's a really high-speed track, but it's actually more technical than you think.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's a very unique track. It's really old, so it has a lot of things on it that you don't really see much anymore. A lot of elevation changes and high-speed corners at the same time. So it's a really interesting track, but it's also really dangerous because to be really fast, you have to take a lot of curb. But at the same time, these curbs in this game can just send you flying at any time. So it's a really dangerous track.
Yep, and you got to really trust your car, trust your setup, and trust your ability. And it's going to be very interesting. We will not be doing full quali. Full quali takes it out of you. It's a lot of extra talking. It's a lot of extra driving, and I know there's a lot of drivers in our league, like Cushy wants to do it every week, but I think we got a pretty good balance that we do it every now and then. It's not an all the time thing, but yeah, I'm happy with the way this weekend went. I'm happy for all our drivers. Everybody did a great job, and great job by you. And that is it for us. That is the end of our weekend here in the United States for the U.S. Grand Prix. We try to line it up with the real races as much as we can. The F1 race was live in Miami today. That track is not in the game yet, so we substituted it for COTA. Tends to be a driver favorite, and I know for our viewers it tends to be a favorite as well. Folks, we thank you for spending your evening with us. You could have been anywhere in the world, and you chose to be right here. And enjoy Division 1 of Zoom Racing League. We will be back next week from Spa, where the best of the best are going to get it on Sunday night.